Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 184th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, we have a brand new playable species from Desmar. This is the Capyborn. It looks adorable. I did catch a sneak peek at the image, and it looks absolutely adorable. I think that this one would be a very big hit for anybody that is really into flavorful RP. So hopefully we'll get some good information, but it won't be a very long one. So sorry we're a little bit late, but tonight's not going to be a very long stream anyway. So we'll just kind of ease into it, and hopefully Des will show up. Yes, the Capyborn. Yes, very much so. The Capyborn. I have a lot of my students are fully obsessed with capybaras. Yeah, and like they will just not stop talking about them. So you know that you have to show them this. I'm like, of course. So yeah. we're gonna have to try it out. We'll see what happens. You're gonna have to show them this. They'll love it. Fawn all over it, right? That, or you throw it in as an NPC, and then you show them this image. You'd be like, "Yeah, this NPC is just here," and then they like, will defend that NPC to the death. Facts. Even if they find out the NPC was working with the BBEG all along, they'll still be like, "But how could you? No, I know there's good in you. It's fine." Oh, that's wild. Oh man. I should make a short about this. So that just that reminds me of a really interesting, makes me think of a really interesting plot point. Because you know how there's a bit of a, friend was evil all the time trope in like video games and movies. It was that, there's always that one NPC or one person in the beginning who's always working with the bad guy, and sure, at the very end, like, it was me. There's always that, and sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. I would love to add a twist to this. Interesting. So, and of course, the capybara just made me think of it, but you give them an NPC, something like this, something innocuous, especially something they're gonna love. Cute little animal, whatever. Sure, of course. You never really give them easy reasons to question it, but it never does anything, out of the ordinary. Maybe it's just like a spy, a scry, a living scry, just sending a little bit of updates, but that's about it. And at the very end, when you do the reveal moment to kind of do like the stab in the, the stab in the back, sure, like the little heart-wrenching moment of it was your best friend the whole time, the thing that you loved, but you don't do it in that kind of a reveal way. You do it in a much more twisted way that leaves them completely in shock, on not sure what side of the coin they're going to land. Like flip the coin of whether they're going to be like mad or forgiving. But you make them flip the coin, but you never let the coin land. By simultaneously revealing that they were working for the BBEG the whole time, but also tying up a loose end. So you have the BBEG be like, "You've done so well for me. Thank you." Do the big reveal. And then the BBG eliminates them. Oh, wow. Like power word kill, because it's like, like basically a familiar at that point. And then you just let both of those things sink in. They just got revealed that their best friend was against them the entire... But in the same exact moment, they just lost their best friend. Which side of the coin would they land on? Because in one respect, if that thing turned around and laughed and said, "Haha, you fools," you'd be like, okay, you deserve to die. Sure. But because you don't get its reaction, you don't get any of that, you don't get the it turns around with sad eyes because it's forgiving. You don't get the turn around and with the evil laugh like it always knew. It's just revealed and then it's eliminated. You don't even get the "I'm so sad I was obligated to do this to you don't guys get a story, because they had my family," any of this stuff. And this is where it's not just a reveal and eliminate. It's the way in which you do it. It's the way in which you've built it up to the point to where when you take it away, you do not give them a chance at closure. They don't ever get to know whether that thing was truly their friend, because like the monologue you give, the thanks you give this thing without ever giving it like an opportunity to or you give them all the invisible monologue. They're approaching the room, they're coming around like a pillar, they hear the BBEG, you give them this powerful monologue, the BBEG's thanking somebody, all of your hard work, all of these years. You think it's just some random person, but at the last moment, right before he says you're no longer needed, you get the visual and it's your best bud. It's like that, and so you're like this whole thing. You're like, who's he talking to? Like, you've been so good. Everything has been so loyal. Blah blah blah. And then at the very end, it's like, your work here is done. Power word kill. And then you go over, and all you see is the boom, and then your best friend's on the ground. So again, you don't ever get the closure of whether or not they were happy to hear these words, or if they had sorrow in their eyes. All you get to know is that they're gone, but I shouldn't be upset. And I feel like that could be so much more powerful of a reveal simply because you leave them with two different heartbreaks.
That's very true.
To mull over all at once. And then imagine starting the BBEG battle that way. They are fully mixed of emotions that they have absolutely zero idea what's going on.
Somebody's changing alignment.
I think that would be diabolical, dude.
I mean, they should just rebrand it from D&D to D&D and Trauma.
D&D and Trauma dump. D&D and D&D.
That's right.
But I think that would be very diabolical to just straight up have them lose it. But you list your best friend in two different ways simultaneously. How does that sit with both players and the characters, right? That's a multi-level
that is my
right
favorite
there.
thing, is when I force my players to think about what their character would do, like outside of themselves. It's like, how would your character feel like and a lot of the times I will see my players, and this is where I struggle sometimes, especially because I got a lot of the younger players. I will see my players completely ignore the reality in front of them and just keep moving on like none of that happened. And so I have to like pause for a second, and I have to like re-articulate the scenario, and I have to ask them like all the questions. I'm like, okay, I want you to recognize that like this person that your character has been traveling with for X amount of years, like has been a part of their life for this long, has just, disappeared, died, whatever. Like, how does this character actually feel in this scenario, in this situation? Like, what are you doing? What do you feel? And so like I try and like just poke at that, and sometimes the players don't want to engage, which it is what it is. But like that is some of my favorite parts of the stories, where you're like actually understanding, okay, what's happening here? What's this character going through? How are they developing? How are they changing type deal? So
interesting.
Very much so.
Did you ping Dez?
I did ping Dez. I did indeed.
We'll give them a few more minutes since we started late, and I don't really have anything. We did get the July community stream, so
we did finish that.
Yeah, that got finished
Slay.
last stream.
Awesome.
So we will get a date out probably by Friday. We'll talk, and hopefully by Friday, or at least by next week, we will get a date out, and then we'll get the votes up in Discord for what y'all want to see for this. I had half a mind to do a subathon for my birthday.
I remember you mentioning that to me. Yeah.
I mean, we've been on 2 years. Would be kind of, something good to do.
It's been almost a year of subbableness.
Right.
And
I was thinking whether or not we do it IRL, or we just set it up in the tavern and I go buy some more minis, and maybe we do an all-day stream where it's a subathon and I just keep painting minis. And at the end of it, whether or not I can get the website up and running, or we just do a giveaway. Because I was thinking we could either just do giveaways, or if I did throw together just one section of the website super quick, we could, like on Squarespace, I could easily set up a marketplace on the website super quick. We could paint a mini, take pictures of it, and instantly post it for sale.
Oh.
And people watching could just bid on it. Like they could be an auction thing right there. So
I mean, that could even be a part of the giveaway. Like we could auction, like find some way to.
Well, the giveaway would happen on stream, like in Twitch. But if we wanted to like do like an auction where it's like, hey, I'm gonna put this up for $1, and then everyone go to the website, and then the highest bid, by the end of like an hour, or just the the bid will every bid will reset the timer, and then when the timer goes out, that's it. So I'd be really curious to see how we could set that up, because I know I've seen a couple other YouTubers who, one of my favorite ones, Alex Steele, he's a blacksmith.
Okay.
And so he'll do challenges where he'll live stream, and he'll say make arrowheads live.
Oh, very cool.
He'll just sit there and crank them out, and then just be putting them online, and they'll be selling out the moment they're like he posts them and it's sold out.
Of course.
And some of the items that he does are one of a kind, and you'll go on there and you'll see, like, he just said, hey, I'll be posting this, he'll show taking the pictures, and live on stream he'll post it. Then you go back there like a week later and see it sold for like $4,000. And I'm like, so there was a way that people were able to like bid on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wouldn't mind doing that, to where we could do a couple small minis for giveaways, or maybe like the whole subathon, right? If it's a whole day, maybe I have like you and Vixie and maybe a couple other people come over and paint some tiny minis, and those get given away all day, like actual giveaways. Yeah. But I'm painting like a giant ass one the whole day, and when that one finally gets finished,
ends up getting
that gets auctioned.
Wild.
I'm just, that sounds, because I loved the mini thing. I just wish the stream was better quality. We could easily fix that by doing it in the
doing it here. Yeah. I also think it'd be kind of cool to just
chat does the colors, or like every so many subs I have to just force change colors.
I think it'd be a really cool idea for something like a subathon, or something you're gonna do like all day, like run through like a bunch of our different segments, like do a cocktail, do some board games, do maybe even some cooking, maybe something that doesn't require too much like camera adjustment, like we can do it all in the same place.
And that's the hard thing, but it's the camera adjustments. And to be fair, a lot of that stuff, like as fast as it seems, there isn't really anything that we do under 2 hours. Like, I know it would be an all day thing, but can you imagine like every segment would be about 2 hours, and then the setup between segments would be like a half hour.
Yes, but I feel like when we do them as an episode, like we try and make it that way. And I feel like if we didn't try, like I'm fairly confident you could go through an entire drink in a half an hour.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that would be also a lot, though, because it's one thing to be in the mindset of a certain type of creation, but to hop from one topic to the next for us would be a lot. I feel like it would also be hard to keep an audience. If we're sitting there,
who knows,
talking about drinks, and then 10 minutes later we're talking about subletting a subclass, and then an hour later we're
doing a board game.
It might be not only taxing on us, but just difficult to connect.
Sure.
If we were, because the one thing I really enjoyed about the minis was how there's like two layers to how I want to answer this. One of the things I really enjoyed about it was the casualness.
Yeah,
just how casual you and I were, almost like how it was in the very beginning, but more professional. And that's the second layer, is how comfortable we were being that casual. Because I remember early on trying to do casual streams, especially when we had no viewers, felt much more like just you and I talking to each other, and absolutely like unaware and dissociative of a camera. But when we were doing minis and even watching the shitty playback, our casualness was still very entertaining compared to what it used to be. Before, that casualness was much more of a voyeuristic, there's just a camera in the room.
Right.
That mini painting showed me just how far we've come in terms of how comfortable we are in front of a camera, and how we can, the difference of us trying to be professional during an episode versus that casualness, but still talking, still interacting, still actually being in the moment. Whereas before, that disassociativeness really felt like just two guys in a living room. And there's a difference between two guys in a living room and a podcast, right? There's a level of connection with the topic. It's not even the audience half the time.
Yeah.
But it's an understanding that someone's listening versus I'm listening to you, you're listening to me.
So I will say there are a lot of podcasts that I watch and I enjoy that they're not even, I don't know if they're streaming, but like they don't interact with an audience. Like they're specifically there for each other. They're there for whatever their topic is. They're there just talking to each other and interacting with each other. And they'll like have stuff that like maybe chat has submitted, like personal questions and like stuff that they'll answer, but it's literally just them. So I know that like it can work either way, whether it's just you two talking to each other. But again, being aware that there's a camera there, being aware that there is an audience on the other side of the camera, one way or another, versus like always constantly having to like interact.
A good one of that is another one on YouTube called Star Talk. Hosted by Neil deGrasse Tyson and that other dude that I don't like. I've showed you that one before. His co-host that seems to add nothing, but he feels to me, he's just like, he's the Kevin Hart of co-host, where he's there to add nothing, but be I'm the one that's supposed to not know anything. So I'm going to be like the normal guy that says, What do you mean
I'm
by
gonna be
that?
the Joe Everyman. I'm gonna represent the audience, so
Which,
to speak.
It's like, that's fine. I don't mind that, but there's so many better ways to do it than just be like, I don't know, half the time he just seems disinterested, but other half it, like, all of his stuff is just flat. Like, he tries to make a joke, I'm just like, just ask the question, man. Just be curious. But I feel like I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is the man. I love listening to that show.
Try too hard, and I think it's like when you and I interact, I don't feel like either of us are trying to be anything. We're just being, right? And I think that there are not enough people that understand what it looks like to just be while doing all that stuff. They're like, oh, there's a formula. All these other people are funny co-hosts and they have quippy things. So I guess I'm supposed to, and he's trying really hard to be the fun that has quippy.
Yeah,
bro, just do you.
Watching their show, because it's on YouTube usually. So they're in front of a camera, not just audio recording, but it is a podcast. They do say that it is syndicated everywhere. So there's an interesting thing that I see with those that do podcasts, officially calling them podcasts, but record it for that purpose. Because there is an audience that wants to watch the podcast, and then there's a bigger audience that would rather listen to it. And eventually, everything, all of D&D discussions would be syndicated as a podcast, because most of what we talk about.
I was actually curious about that. I had one of my buddies ask if we
it's
had
supposed to be available. You should be able to find it, but I need more professional syndication to make it easier to find. But it should be
like on what's that other platform that everybody's always on? The green one.
Spotify. I'm not sure if we're on Spotify yet, but I know you can find us on YouTube and in podcasts, as well as YouTube Music and all of that. So we should be able to be available there. But that's where all of that, because most of our content you could follow just by audio alone. Very true. But when I watch them, they're very much aware of the camera. They're set up kind of in front of. They're not like cameras. It's not like the camera's like to their side.
Sure.
But one thing I get watching them and watching others that have this podcast format, and even just listening to them and listening to us, it's not something that I think we are aware of, but we're starting to pick up on it, kind of like that dialect. But what I pick up is knowing the difference between two people talking to each other and two people talking to be heard. And I don't mean be heard as in I want you to hear me and you want me to hear you, like an argument or a debate, what we would call a debate. But the difference is like you look at our very, very early streams together and we were talking to each other. It was just a conversation between you and me. I was responding directly to you. You were responding directly to me without without disassociation of anyone else listening in.
Yeah.
Where when you listen to podcasts, when a question's answered, it is not, it's not asked in any way that's not, contextual, right? Most questions are more clear.
Yeah.
Answers aren't directed at the person, they're directed at the question. It's still dissociative. You're still casual with somebody.
Yeah.
Like I still look at you half the time, but I have learned my own speech patterns aren't answering you. I'm answering what you said. And I've learned we're getting into that mode of recognizing that I'm not talking to you. You're setting me up to talk to them.
It's very much where I've said it before, like everyone has their own language, right? And so a lot of the times you and I can have a personal conversation and there's a lot that I don't need to say because I'm aware of what you are aware of. And I'm aware of the types of things that you were going to accept and take as inference with the things that I'm saying. That's not necessarily true for an audience, right? So when we're talking, a lot of the times it is very valuable to ensure that you articulate all the aspects of what is going on that's involved with your answer and not just, hey, here's the shortest version possible that I could say it to, or the most direct way that I could communicate it to you, Vortex, right? So
it's almost like self-mansplaining, because it's not so much that you're trying to over-explain it to the person as if they don't know, but it's almost like you're trying to cover all your bases to be like, did I cover everything without making any assumptions?
Sure.
And that's kind of like that referential of, okay, what did you ask me? Let me answer that instead of just assuming you'll know how I'm going to answer or what I mean by that. And it's that whole thing of telling yourself, tell yourself more words, explain it to yourself better. So that's why I say it's almost like a self-mansplaining, because it isn't meant for you and it's not meant for them, but it's meant for them, but not directed at them. And it's not directed at you.
It's so interesting. Like there'll be some times where I will watch some of these like controversial like interviews where somebody's like interviewing somebody about like a certain topic or whatever, and like the exact opposite will happen. It's like the person responding will be very articulate in their response or very specific in what they're saying, and the other person will take what they're saying and add meaning to it that didn't exist there, or they'll try and like turn it into something that it wasn't, that like fits their own narrative or something. And I'm like, it's so interesting to like watch how things occur. And like fortunately, like our audience, they can respond to us like via chat and everything, but it's a lot harder for all of that to occur, right? And even when it does occur, you and I can interact with them and be like, hey, can you clarify? Like, what do you mean when you're asking that? Or where did we say that? Or where did you get that information type stuff? So,
well, and it also shows the difference of whether or not you believe that what you're doing is in a vacuum. You know, I think that there are a lot of times where those that are doing the content will maybe forget we'll forget that what they're doing is not in a vacuum. So you look at like maybe, you know, some of the so-called most popular podcasts in the world, and you look at how those kind of hosts and their in particular type of audience or guests, I should say, for that particular type of audience, there isn't much of a structure, and a lot of it is left to just be what was said was what was said, take it as it is, right? It's very open, not even open-minded, it's just very open to, well, you know, I can only be responsible for the words that I said, not how much I left open to interpretation about what I meant. And I think that comes down to when they're in that room, it comes down to this is now two individuals. Yeah, there's probably a whole crew there.
Sure.
But I think it gets very isolated to when you're not live, you know, when what you're recording isn't directly live or isn't live with a with an audience that you're aware of, like, you know, radio or something like that, or even if you are live but you're doing a podcast, you don't really see a chat. I feel like you can get into that space where you feel like you're talking in a vacuum, or what you're doing is in a vacuum, or even in an echo chamber, where those two individuals that are talking are getting lost in what the purpose is, whether it's entertainment, whether it's information. But when you get into those, you know, deeper conversations, it seems like they start to talk to each other more about, hey, are you listening to me? Whereas it's not about you two anymore. It was always supposed to be about the cameras and the microphone. But a lot of times you see those podcasts, and there's definitely, I feel, a difference when you can tell the hosts are completely just here and that's indifferent versus the hosts that are here.
Yes.
And we're not, you know, and I think there's also a difference between hosts that are here, because there are some hosts that are just here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's me, there's you, but it's me in chat, you in chat, us in chat. But there's a difference between, again, our kind of conversations, our building blocks, where we are trying to be almost a soundboard for chat. Chat can chime in at any point. They can give us, you know, discussion points, but being that level where I don't know, being on that ideology of understanding that I want the audience to take away something. I don't want to just be known for what I said.
Sure.
You know, I want the audience to have part. And I think there's a big difference between that level of entertainment and the type of live streaming type of entertainment, right? Because that's, I think, a big difference is making entertainment the traditional way is making something your artwork and just giving it out until people like it, right?
Sure.
And it's like, this is my artwork.
Take somebody's passing out mixtapes in the corner.
But with what we do, I think live entertainment has a completely different feel, because there's some kind of the traditional live entertainment, you know, theater. It was already pre-production. You're going to see what I made.
Yes.
This is, I think, a different area where it's living and breathing, and it operates based directly off of how the audience interacts and how the audience moves forward with it. So it's a different mindset, but I have seen the changes over the course of the last 2 years, and just listening to us, it's fascinating to see, even in our shorts, just little snippets of how we articulate and how we express ourselves has changed quite a bit as well.
That's clean. That's super clean. I'm here for it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And it's only getting better. We have
it really
so
is
much. Yeah, because we have OSR launching. So we were talking before stream. One Shot Rivals should be launching. Our beta test should be sometime next month. We have 6 characters, so we have all of our beta characters ready to go and test out. So the next stage is going to be developing the map, like the actual gaming setup, and the interface, how we're actually going to interface with players. But with everything that went so smoothly with those 6 characters, and now that I have the template, there's a likelihood I'll just bust out at least half of them. So we'll have probably a lot more than 6 to test. We'll probably still only test with 6.
Sure.
But we'll have a lot more testing available. Once we know the game works, we'll be able to just literally offload all the other characters ready to go.
Right.
So that's coming down the pipeline, and I have some really, really fascinating ideas for how we're going to do the interaction with that. It's going to be a lot less chat, like literal text chat based, and we're hoping that it'll be a little bit more of an interface that think Jaxbox. If you guys know what Jaxbox Games is, think that in terms of how we would run the game. You know, chat would see it on screen, but every player would have essentially their own interface to have their information and their movements. So that's in the works. Thinking this next month or two, I'm probably it's hard to budget for something that's like a future plan. So I want to get it sooner than later, but I don't want to spend the money on it right now.
Sure.
But there's a $50, like $45 book that I want to get. But it's absolutely, I don't know if it's worth the investment right now. Like, I know I'm going to need the book eventually.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't even need the book, but I really want to use it as a template. But when we were talking about De-Evolved and eventually coming out with that. So there is a very, very similar game. Done some research, and there's one game out there. There's one RPG that is very, very similar to what we're trying to do. Not identical, and it'll be fresh enough of a difference where it won't look like
it'll feel like it has its own purpose.
But they did. It's so fascinating that they did quite a bit similar to how
I would love to take a gander at.
So it's called Paleomythic.
Paleomythic,
and it's only it's like there's only a handful of books, but pretty much one book to do it all. Like the entire book is and it does it literally, the way it was described to me so far is exactly how I wanted De-Evolve to work, where it's one book, it's not a module, but it tells you how to run them, like the general essence of how the landscape works and how to build your own, stuff. It just does it differently, and it's a little bit more role-play-y than I was intending. So it's already leaning into the role-play aspect, but I think we would help categorize a little bit more in terms of like who does what. But yeah, I want to get it as a template because it'll be a great template for how to write a singular book, but it'll also help me finalize a lot of the ideas because they probably already have a couple.
So is this Paleomythic theoretically its own RPG?
It is. It's its own RPG someone created, just like what we're gonna do. But I want to check it out, not to steal its rules. I just want to make sure that I'm not ripping any rules directly.
Sure.
And I kind of want to see how they have it laid out because that'll help us understand how our books should look.
Okay.
So I'm probably gonna end up putting some money into that because that looks really, really fascinating. And I'd like to just make sure that what we have is our own idea.
Sure.
But yeah, I'll probably be getting that, and then who knows? Maybe the July community stream. Maybe that will be the subathon. I don't know. Would that be? I mean, so I'm pretty sure you can speak for yourself, and really, it's only you and Hecate buying the the community streams anyway. So it's really up to you two. But would that feel cheap to do like my birthday subathon as the community stream, or should there be 2 different streams? Because I mean, would it feel cheap as in that's not what they actually earn? Because doing the subathon would be kind of like a whole different thing.
I will say I don't think so. I think that basically what it would feel like to me as if I were a viewer is an extra special monthly stream. It'd be like, hey, this monthly stream that we earned is now way cooler than it would have been otherwise.
All right.
That's kind of how I would feel. It'd be like, hey, normally we'd get like a little bonus stream.
I just don't want it to feel like, hey, we earned the, you know, especially because we didn't earn the last one. So it's like, hey, we finally earned this one. Hey, I'm doing a birthday stream, and it's like, so we didn't really earn one because were you just going to already do a birthday stream? Like, that's my only concern is, does it feel cheap as if I'm taking away what they earned versus what I was going to do anyway?
I think you were thinking about doing it anyways, but there was no plans to do it anyways. And
that's fair. There hasn't been a plan yet. I don't even have a current plan, but I don't know.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
So you let me know, how do you feel about that? Would you feel like it's I know you'll watch anyway, so you know. It's more about what does that feel like, a cheap thrill, I guess, if you feel like you paid for something and then something happened that was gonna something that was gonna happen anyway. Like
does the cover of this Paleo Mythic book look like it's just like overlooking like a nice little valley with kind of like a volcano-ish looking thing? Maybe. You haven't seen it?
No,
okay.
No. All right. I just know that there's I tried to look for a quick PDF of it, but then I was just like, I really want to get the book because a PDF's only going to be, I'm not really going to look through a PDF. I will just search it.
Sure. Yeah.
But an actual
exactly.
book, I will actually take into account everything about it. So, and I want to give them, I feel like if I'm going to get the book, like literally it's the mindset of, I don't want to be that kind of creator. The thing is I want to create my own unique idea. I found someone who's already done it. So I want to A, research my, competitor. B, figure out what I do and don't like about them and make sure I don't, cross over too many lines. But if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to try to be their competitor, I might as well give them credit and give them money.
Yeah. Give them props for what they created that was quality. So, okay.
All
okay,
right, cool.
We'll talk about that after.
Soul seems pretty fine. I doubt Hecate would be all of that upset, So
I don't think so either. Like we've said, like they've said in the past,
they just here to vibe.
They're here for us. They're here to chill. So I'm super here for that.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll do that. We'll do a subathon. Maybe what I'll do is we'll do like the mini stream, because we'll do like an all day one. So maybe the whole point will be like a mini stream, like the mini paintings. But maybe the community will get to vote on like an intermission, and during that intermission,
we could do we'll
do an episode.
Okay.
Whether they want us to play a board game or do some drinks or create something real quick.
I like that. And that way you can be sure that the people that are here want to see whatever the thing is that we're doing, because they're here, they're in chat, they're voting on it.
Okay. I will start to plan that out and see if we can get anybody else who wants to come over and join in on that, because I think that would be kind of cool to do a giveaway.
Okay.
Maybe do an auction off, and then try to do a subathon along with that.
Sick.
And then we could do. I like that idea of just keep painting until I get so many subs, and then I just have to force change random color. Like, I guess I'm not using blue anymore. I'm using yellow. I guess I'm using green now. Like,
make sure you're only cycling colors that you want on this thing, so you don't end up having to like paint it some like freaky color.
Maybe that's the whole point.
Maybe that is the whole point. Maybe that's what they want to auction off at the end, is the freaky colored thing that they.
Because we, for a subathon, usually you do like different categories, like, for every so many subs. It's like maybe for like every so many subs, I force change to a random color. If someone gifts 5 subs, they can choose the color.
Oh, okay.
And then of course you have like the actual sub goals. So at 10, 50, 100 total, you have like actual things you have to do. That would be
okay. Cling. We love this.
Okay. I'm getting more and more into this idea. All right. Subathon it is. I don't know how to run one. I'll talk to Vixie and I'll have her help me set up how to do a subathon and how to hype people up, because I don't know how to do all that shit.
Hype.
I need a hype crew.
Hype train. Yeah.
Let's see.
All right. So you are requisitioned for our hype crew. You and Hecate and Nugget. Nugget's pretty hypey.
Let's see. What else? I think that's it.
Yeah. That's good. I feel like we gave Des a good minute to try and get here, but they might be occupado.
I'm trying to think of other stuff that's coming down the pipe. I know I'm working on, the website, the Oracle.
Yes.
One-shot rivals. Now de-evolved, but that's probably going to be next year as we develop the rules.
Sure. Yeah.
But that'll probably, be in development. Once I get a lot of these bigger projects done that are just taking up all of my brain power and they're on like autopilot, then I can get back into more creative stuff. But right now I'm stuck on these projects that I need to get done, and my brain keeps wanting to squirrel, and I'm like, no, stop
it,
stop.
One thing at a time.
Focus.
It's because the other things look fresh and new and pretty.
They're shiny dangly keys, and they're very jingly.
I want to touch it.
All right. And then this Friday we'll be doing Johnny 5. We'll be doing Pop Culture Build Johnny 5 this Friday. I'm gonna set up some movie nights with Vixie, and we're gonna be watching those movies because there's at least 2. I remember there's at least 2, so we'll watch both of them before Friday. I highly suggest you all do the same.
I'm gonna have to find a way to do the same.
All right.
Yeah. If you find a streaming service that has it, you let me know, because
We might just be renting them if I can find it.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, it looks like everywhere. Prime is rental.
Yeah.
Netflix maybe?
I figured it. The only place I mean, you might be able to change regions on Netflix and find it, because I heard you can do that.
That might be it.
But
it looks like Apple TV might have it. That's why.
It's the only one I don't have.
Yeah, that's probably why it's so expensive.
Apple TV does have some really good ones. Like, I've been wanting to watch Severance for a while, but whatever's fine.
All right. All right. This won't be very long. I'll do an intro more for consistency's sake. I don't know if this will be long enough for an actual video.
Fair enough.
Unless it's really cool, unless it's just such a cool thing that we'll just add it. But
turn it into a nice little, maybe even a 10-15 minute video.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that for this week's video. I just have to. I did the mini speed up, the mini painting speed up.
Oh, did you do the time lapse?
I did the time lapse, and then at the very end, like, slowed it down to when we're showing it off. I just need to figure out good music for it. So
okay. How do you think the time lapse looks? Does it look pretty decent?
Yeah, it looks pretty legit.
Okay. Cool.
Especially because it gets rid of a lot of the fuzziness in some areas. So
okay.
Kinda, like,
goes,
better. It clips through better frames.
Got you.
So I think I just need to find a really nice background music for it, and then just slap that in there, and then that'll be this week's video. Because why the fuck not? I mean, my videos don't get fucking any views anyway, so until I get a real editor, I'm not giving up on videos.
Sure.
I don't want to say I'm giving up on my quality, but like, one of my videos, I used to painstakingly go through and make the audio sound really crisp in terms of like really
each one of the cuts,
like anything that was over like
how like you did for the old gods.
Exactly, like anything that was over a second long pause, I was going through and like the last one I did was almost 2 hours, simply because I'm like, unless it sounds like we stopped talking, I'm just gonna ignore it. Like, I just went through the biggest chunks, and then I just posted, because I'm just like, it's not that I want to feel like it's less effort. It's just that I just don't have the time and the focus to do that.
Is it worth the effort you're putting forth, the value you're getting from it?
And I'm not getting any value.
And I totally understand that. Just having the content out there, I feel like, is value enough. And I think that eventually we are going to get to the place where we have that kind of coverage, we have that kind of presence, and then people are going to be able to see this stuff. And the originals are still there. We can get them re-edited in a way that's like
and that's
better
the point,
eventually.
Right? It's I don't need to worry about getting 10,000 followers for my videos right now. I just need to get to a point to where YouTube looks at my channel and it says, hey, there's videos here, like, someone can go watch this. And I do get views. It's trash. And sometimes I'll go and it'll be 2 weeks and I'll get 0 views on my main videos. And I'm just like, I might as well just stick with shorts. So that's why all my effort's in shorts.
Sure.
And I'm getting less and less effort put into my videos. It's not worth it.
It's hard. It's really freaking hard. Like,
too late in the game.
having an actual editor is the freaking business.
Yeah. But that comes with money, and we don't have that yet. So hey, let's do a subathon next month.
Big facts.
And yeah, we'll do it. But all right, let's just do a quick little intro for this one. And we'll just get going. So when you hear greetings gamers, feel free to span. Huh?
I hit 10K. XP.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Or not 10K, 100K.
All right, so yeah, just feel free to spam hi YouTube when I say greetings gamers, and we will get started. Capyborn, Desmar, playable race. Here we go. Greetings, gamers, and welcome to another Misfit Gamer Studios production. I am your host, Vortex. That gentleman over there is your co-host, Kage, and this is Homebrew Review. On today's episode, we have another playable species coming from Desmar Sama called the Capyborn. I'm really curious because I did get a sneak peek at the imagery, and it looks absolutely adorable. I think anybody with the right RP is going to absolutely love playing with this. So let's dive right in and take a look at the Capyborn. Fucking solid.
That was good.
Damn.
That was clean as fuck.
For an episode I don't plan on editing, fuck, why'd I have to get a solid intro
Come on,
then?
that's the business. But hey, it's good. It's solidifying in your
God, I hate when that happens though, don't you? Just it's like rolling a nat 20 on like your practice rolls. or when you or on the roll that you just don't care about. You're just like, I'll give you a 20 roll, fine. Pfft, nat 20. You're like, mother, why couldn't that been on the last attack? Like, no, it always has to be that way. Anyway, as always, we are going to start with the description.
boom.
Capyborn from Desmar Sama. All right, starting with the description. I almost read those first three words wrong.
Wild. Absolutely wild.
There is no W in those first three words.
That is accurate. That is accurate. Oh,
I am so glad I have a very slight delay.
We
in my
are
brain
90s
power.
kids, okay? Like, it makes sense. Wild.
All right, let's
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Starting with the description. Oh god.
Goodness. We love it.
All right, starting with the description. From golden shores untouched by the likes of humans or elf or anyone really, the Capyborn come. From their mysterious home, they lived their lives free of struggle or strife. No predators and no conflict had made the Capyborn a relatively soft race of people. Without suffering, they were not well suited for the outside world. So when fate saw fit to open a door, they found difficulty in simply fitting in with the other sentients. Though a rare few grew in that pain and struggle, finding a great strength in it. I feel like, why am I getting suddenly Teletubby vibes?
I was about to say
Care
that.
Bear vibes.
Yes.
Just like,
It's like these
Just-
cute little colorful creatures coming around just wanting to give people hugs, and all of a sudden they get
what's
slapped in the face by a freaking tiefling
what
or
was that
Goliath
one
or some
from
shit.
Robot Chicken? The gummy bear one.
Why does that remind me of Happy Tree Friends?
Exactly. It's like, that's exactly what I'm getting from this.
Get out of here.
They got shoved into the real world real quick. All right, let's see what these things look like. Oh, well, that doesn't look as cute and fuzzy and harmless as I was expecting. I like the little like hornish things we're getting here.
I mean, you got the nice little tuft up here. You got these horns, you know. But they look like little hamster dudes, man.
Yeah, that's really all they are. They're just giant hamsters.
You know, little cute
Big
guys.
old fat hamsters. All right, well, let's.
Yeah.
Oh wow, there is not a lot going on
They're
here.
the chubby born.
All right, well, yeah. So this is starting out with what we always like is good amount of lore. This really doesn't hurt anybody. It's kind of like saying they came from an undiscovered area of the Fae or the
Sure.
Feywild, or you know, just from another dimension. I like this because no one can really argue with it. It doesn't really hurt anybody to say that this is just an uncharted area of their own, planet. It could be an island.
Untouched shores can mean so many things.
And the doorway could be anything from an actual like teleporter to a ship to
a different dimension to
a cave that came open. Like there's so many options here. So I feel like this
the DM can run with it however they want to.
I mean, you could even so easily just say that there's a great mountain system, and there's a legend that inside that mountain range that's impassable and completely intraversable is like like a valley with a rainforest in it. And they got sealed off thousands of years ago.
It's the Bermuda Triangle.
And because we think of like our planet where we had great creatures of large size or much earlier, and then they've shrunk. But imagine if this place got like closed off and the big creatures maintained. And then eventually now you can open it back up into your world of now it's been reopened, but this was a world closed off from the evolution of predators.
Wild.
So there's so many ways that you can easily integrate this. So very much props on a very simplistic lore.
Simplistic but open.
And I do like that we very rarely get the passive by nature mentality. A lot of the times we get this ideology of great pains turn them into strong and valid warriors, and it's like, no, this is just they were not prepared. They came here and things were just slaughtering them, eating them, scamming them. Like I could just imagine that the reason why there's so few is because not that many came out, but what did come out was a substantial number, and then not many of them survived.
Yes, they got screwed over, turned into slaves, like who knows what possibly happened to them. But yeah, there are just so many possibilities out there for what this can be. I think that helps out a lot.
Yeah, so great way to start it, and great way to give every DM a good leg up and being able to introduce this into their own setting. All right, moving on to ability scores. You get to choose one. Choose one of A, choose any +2, choose any +1, or choose 3 different +1s. Nothing wrong with that. That is the standard. But of course, we always like to add in here that our encouragement and what we'll even put into either the ADMG, the APHB, depending on which one covers creations like this. But we always, we're starting into the mindset that, especially with races, like in particular with races, when it comes down to these ability scores, having either a mandatory choice of 2 different stats, like strength versus dex, or a mandatory choice between a physical and a mental. So it's one thing to say that, hey, you need at least a +1 in strength, regardless of which one of these you choose. Or when you choose any of these, at least one choice has to be strength or dex. Or going so far as to say you have to have at least 1 mental and 1 physical upgrade. Like, regardless of how you want to say it, that is the encouragement I think we have, is that when you make these, don't just let the ability score be anything, because you really want that ability score to truly, at some degree, represent what they are. Yeah. Not just what they could be. And so that's our new encouragement.
And like, when 5th edition kind of first came out, it was kind of unheard of to have to choose any. Only in like later releases did they start giving more options on like what you could do in scenarios like this. And if you are going to give those options, for me, it really makes sense to specify. Like, you have the choose 2 of one and 1 of the other, increase 1 by 2 and 1 by 1. Like, that's fine. I again, depending on how you want to build your character, and I understand that, characters of any race can be versatile. Not every Goliath has to be super strong. Not every, but like, you're gonna have natural inclinations over other creatures, which makes sense to have these bonuses in.
Like, if you're gonna be a race that is inherently, just regardless of build, just inherently going to be stronger than everybody else, but then you say that you can choose any ability score you want, it's like, so how is that being represented? Just in physique? You know what I mean? And that's like saying, well, it's like saying, well, I have a 7 in strength, but my character fucking ripped, like muscle, like a mile wide muscle. So I'm actually really strong, even though it's a 7. It's like, that's the mindset, right? It's saying that, well, I'm a titan, I'm a stone titan, I'm a stone giant, but I only want 11 in strength. And it's like, but like, the whole point of that is like, you you're literally the things you're made out of makes you stronger, right? Like it's like making a warforged but having a low constitution. It's like you're made out of metal. Like literally your constitution is impermeable compared to a living creature. I don't understand how, like you said, variability is fine, but when you're not really representing the purpose, like when you have something that, you know, just again, when you're born with it, I don't understand why we're saying that's optional.
I will say this. I can understand an articulation for all things. Like say in your instance, if you wanted to be a fragile warforged, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you're a scarecrow. Like think about a
scarecrow
as a warforged. Like your race, is theoretically a war, but like that's what you are. You're made out of sticks and twigs. So like maybe you are a little bit more fragile. Maybe you don't have as many hit points. Maybe you're not as durable as a traditional metal or wooden warforged would be. You know, so like I feel like those types of things should very well be represented. But like what you're talking about, that mental. The immersion breaking scenario that you're in where it's just like
you should be born with something and you're not because of how you want to play it. And it's like you said the exact words is when you're coming, you know, when it comes down to, yes, you want explanations. You can easily justify all of that, but it's not represented. And that's my thing, right? Is you could say, well, I'm a fragile warforged. It's like, but that's not what you're playing. You're just, you know, it's. I'm not saying everyone's doing it is min-maxing, but this right here is what we talk about when we say that 5th edition is made for min-maxers, and it kind of ruins the RP because things like this right here. If you're choosing a race for the things that it gives you, but you're misrepresenting those things, like you said, maybe you're not a stone giant who's uber strong, but if you are inherently supposed to be stronger than every other thing in existence, even if you're the weakest of your kind.
Sure.
It's weird to me that you're still equating that weakness to the weakness. Like, again, if you're this giant and your strength is a 7, even if you're the weakest of your kind, that means that your weakest of your kind is still the weakest of my kind. That doesn't equate. That means that the strongest of your kind is still the strongest of my kind. The whole point was that race was supposed to be inherently stronger. And that's my hard like justification is I get, like you said, you can always justify it, but no one does, in my opinion. When you don't play to the aspect of what you are, you don't then play against it, right? If you're gonna be, say, I'm trying to think of a better example other than just like strength.
No,
strength. If you're gonna choose a race, but then not represent that race because you're only gonna
even something like charisma, like, you know, somebody, you know, something that I struggle with sometimes is I enjoy at times playing low charisma characters, but at the same time, you know, there are a lot of people who are like, I'm gonna play a low charisma character, yet they're always the one who's like the face, who's always talking, who's always trying to convince people of things, who's always trying to do the thing that's the most charismatic. And I'm like, is that really how your character would be portrayed in these particular scenarios? Like, and I had to force myself to do this. I made a deal with my DM at the time when I was playing one of my druids. I was like, hey, give me a fox form that I can be in all the time for this druid. And so like whenever she was in like her shy moments, she would just be a fox, and she doesn't have the ability to talk. So she's purposefully not interacting. She's like doing things she's finding a way to be useful in a way that isn't socially, you know, so it's kind of forcing that mentality. But I totally get it's I feel like you said, 5th edition, it's not so much that it's made for min-maxers, but it encourages it easily enables min-maxers, because
I wouldn't even say it enables it, because it's like there's no option, right? It's like when you choose a subclass, like we talked about this, right? When you choose a subclass, there is no choice. You know everything. There's no changing it later. You could theoretically multi-class, but the moment you choose that other class, boom, you're done. You have the roadmap, you have every ability, and unless you're gonna take an ASI versus a feat, right? Those are the only customizations you get. But when it comes to something like this, when you know, oh, I'm gonna be a monk, and you're gonna choose this race. If this race isn't forcing you to lean into what the race has, you're it's again, it's not forcing you to, but it's giving you every reason, every option to go look at everything you're going to have, choose the best options. Make sure your strength is up because that monk needs strength. Make sure your dex is up because you want dex for that build.
Yes.
Right? That's my problem with it. It's built way too early and not throughout the gameplay.
If this is truly at character creation, then I have to think as a strength inclined Warforged, or not Warforged, let's say what are the half giants? Goliath. As a strength inclined Goliath, what reason would I have to play a wizard? You know, now there can be a lot of reasons to do that, but like perhaps this particular half giant was born deformed, was born different than everybody else, was born as like the runt of his litter. If you've ever seen an anime called Ranking of Kings, this literal giant, this dude was like massive, like the size of like a skyscraper. He had the smallest child in the world, right? Like this tiny little itty bitty dude, and as he's like, 18, he's walking around like 3 feet tall type deal, and so the idea that like, yeah, I'm theoretically a half giant, Loki's theoretically a half giant, but he
never gets portrayed
he's
as
shaped like a human, right? And so it's I would say that perhaps in the creation of the character, and this is why I call it enabling, it's like it gives you the ability to just be a min-maxer and just pick what you want and not care about whatever you're doing, so you can just be whatever you want. But I do feel like a lot of the times it's like, if I'm going to be a half giant that decided to go the route of wizard instead of the route of barbarian, I went that way because I was probably more apt to that than all of my half giant counterparts.
And that's where, a lot of my hot takes, especially on TikTok, have come recently is that's, I finally made my hot take about players being entitled, and that one didn't go over very well. A couple of my hot takes haven't gone, like, people have been giving me some hate.
But they get in the comments.
That's the point.
They getting in the comments.
But that's exactly it, right? It comes down to this ideology of you want to create something, because you expect this to be a me versus you. Your whole point is not just to play through the story, but it's to beat every challenge. And that's again, not how we do it. It's not about beating every challenge. The challenges are there to make the story more fun and not just us talking.
Sure.
But it's not just about, well, I'm going to do everything I can to be the strongest, most powerful, just so you can't throw anything that'll beat me. I'm like, I'm not trying to. Like, yes, as a DM, I am trying to kill you, but not like that. If I really wanted to kill you, I would just snap my fingers. You'd be surrounded by 100 gold dragons. Good luck, bye. By the way, they all rolled a 1 on initiative, and it doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Hold person. Done. Every third one just casts hold person, or every other one holds person on you. The other ones do, their breath. Like, I can kill you. If I do not need to be clever about it. Like, all of these players and all these DMs were like, I had this big old fight and then they destroyed it. I'm like, were you planning on the fight being part of the story, or were you just planning on being difficult? And did you only think about I do this, they do this, I do that? You're not thinking about the grandioseness of what does the story mean? Like, that's the problem, right? 5th edition really doesn't give you that because it's meant to be this like 1-to-1, which has its place. But I don't know. It's like there's no reward for other than personal, unless you look at it as a personal fun time to have a disadvantage at the game. The thing about 5th edition is it does not reward disadvantage. And what I mean by that is there is no reward for having a flaw. There's no reward for having a bad dump score. There's no, like you said,
define reward. Because I hear what you're saying, and I'm actually curious what it might look like.
So, your example, a wizard Goliath. Other than telling a great RP story about how he's deformed, he's not like the strongest, blah, blah, blah. That's great for you. You are having a personal reward for running that story. But the game itself, by you not using your ability scores to be strong, right? Or, min-maxing to be specifically a wizard, right? By choosing to be that character that, like, the race really itself doesn't do anything for wizard, right? Like, it was meant to be strong. You chose it for the RP, but it doesn't do anything because you chose not to do its best thing, right? There's no counterbalance to you choosing not to min-max, right? It's encouraged to min-max because if you don't, outside of it just being more of a challenge, that's it. Like, the game doesn't say, hey, because you do this, there's other benefits, right? There's not, It's not like secretly there are other feats that you unlock because you don't have a high enough, like, you know what I mean? There's just, the game doesn't really offer a reason for you not to min-max, other than unless you personally want that challenge, there's no reason why the game would really give you any value.
Given
in
that
running
example,
a more difficult
what
character.
what do you think a possible way to give that value would look like?
More customization, and that, kind of like the way that I run Hype.
Like in races specifically. So
Everything.
So theoretically, if we're to use this particular example of being a wizard who is a half giant, right?
Yeah.
Is a Goliath, right? And we're talking about what kind of value could there be in not min-maxing, i.e., I'm going to be a wizard, so I'm not going to max out my intelligence, which would be min-maxing. I'm going to choose to put my stats into strength, which would make sense for being a half giant, being a Goliath, right? So I'm going to do that thing, and theoretically I'll be at a disadvantage. What is something that the game could provide that is a draw to that, you know, that would allow you to feel more comfortable, more enticed to go the non-min-maxy route?
That's very difficult without getting into a lot of homebrewiness, right? But because it's hard to give a static reward to deficits, right? Like, because that's like saying, like, if you don't min-max strength, what do you get? If you don't min-max intel, like, it's hard to quantify that, right? But like, let's say you're saying like you want to be a giant, you know, you're taller, you're magically inclined because you know, your magical race and everything, but you chose one that typically is supposed to be super powerful, like super strong, and you're going to, you know, sacrifice that. Having that convert into something that makes more sense for a wizard, that I'm trying to put together what a 5th edition.
Sure.
I most of this happens for me in High Point because it's not so much about what your intentions are, it's about what makes sense for your character and how they're going to build through it, right? So I'm trying to think of, like, with 5th edition, the hardest part about balancing this is everything's already predetermined.
Sure.
So it's like saying, like, if you don't do this, you have to make a reward that also accounts for every alternative, right? Like for Wizard, I would say, like, oh, well, I'm a giant, I'm taller, I'm bigger, I'm more magically inclined, give me more range. But is that for every spellcaster? Is that for a half giant sorcerer that's not strong? And then what if it's, you know, like, there's too many if and ands, but that's what I mean.
That was one of my first things, is like, hey, I have a better line of sight, because a lot of the
line of sight would be and that's it right there. Perfect. Let's just go with that. A DM saying, hey, since you're going with this, and you're theoretically supposed to be taller than everybody, I'm gonna give you advantage with line of sight, or I'm gonna give you people who are considered 1/4 less cover when it comes to height. So if someone's on half cover, to you, they're quarter cover.
Sure.
You know, like, I would do that simply because it would adjust the fact that you feel like the choice you made directly involves the swing. Because it doesn't necessarily have to mean that every character overcomes and becomes equally as strong, but the idea that, you know, if you've chosen something and it's encouraging you to min-max it, if you don't min-max it right now, the game just gets harder. If you don't min-max, right? If you don't use every part of the race you built, then if you don't use it to its perfect extent, then why are you choosing that, right? Like, the game literally basically is kind of like, why are you doing that? This would be so much better because we built something for that combo. And that's another problem. 5th edition really tries to solve every combo. It really wants to be everything. If you look at the evolution how 5th edition just keeps adding to it, I kind of miss the old editions where, like, multi-classing was a lot more personalized. Nowadays, it's like multi-classing is trying to cover, with all the different subclasses, right? It's trying to cover almost every combination. And it's hard to do something, you know, say like, hey, we should do this instead, because it's easy to point out, like, why don't you just be this race over here? Because it does that, and it does this for the wizard instead of the Goliath.
Right.
Like, if you want the Goliath for its magic, you should be this race because it does that magic thing that the Goliath does, but you don't suffer from the fact that you're not using the strength because this one would give you a bonus to intelligence. That's what it feels. It feels less like it feels less like I get to craft it, and more like there's an expectation of, if I want something, there's an expected way to build it, whereas before it felt like I got to build and figure it out from there.
So then let me ask you this. From your perspective, what should attract you to a certain race or class?
Synergy. To put it bluntly the way you do, the best word for it is synergy. But that doesn't cover it all either. Because the thing with it, right, is just
synergy
with the whole build and the game and the story. Like the whole point about the synergy is like, it's like what we talked about before. A class is so much more than the abilities your character can do.
Sure.
I feel like every layer of your build should keep that in mind. It is not just what it's giving you. The race you chose is not just this list of speed. It's not just these few it's not poison resistance. Choosing that class is a culture. It's a background. It's a lifestyle. It's the body you're in. I mean, if you've ever been in shape and then gone not in shape because of surgery, or vice versa, not been in shape and then got in shape. If you've ever been overweight and then lost weight, or vice versa. Those are different bodies, right? They act, they live different, they feel different. You know, you wake up different, you sleep different, you eat different, you interact with the world differently. And that's where, for me, it's like when you choose a class, keep in mind the type of what that means, the type of upbringing you had, the type of person you are, the motivators that got you there, right? When you're a fighter versus a wizard has a different way of living, right? They're still both very disciplined, but disciplined in a different way.
Sure.
And that's where I feel like synergy is the easy way to say it, but what I really mean is just what attracts me is when I choose it, am I really walking away with something that gives me a more complete build, or is it just a list of really cool features I can use at times I think are beneficial?
And I will say, I do very much agree with that. Although I do feel like a lot of the times when I hear synergy, it is not a one-to-one equivalent, but it feels like a very similar synonym to min-maxing. And what I mean by that is I love synergy. I love things that work well together, even if they have downsides. But the fact is they do work well together, i.e. being a halfling and being a wizard. They work well together because of the high intelligence, because it enables a lot of what you're going to be able to do with all the things that you are, right?
Right.
And so when I think about like what would encourage me to be a Goliath instead of a halfling when I want to choose wizard as my class, when I'm building my character, like what would attract me to choosing something that's potentially not as synergistic, but has story potential.
So expanding upon my answer, then, if that's your definition of synergy, then mine would be, I guess, the expanded would be like logical synergy, or not necessarily logical, but consistent synergy. In terms of, yes, there are plenty of things that work well together, but does it make sense to put those things together? Whether it's from the story point of view or how it would come about, right? Like we've talked about, like, you know, you see those character builds where it's like, when you look at the build, you're like, this is all really cool and it can do a lot of stuff, but
how the heck did this happen?
Yeah. I mean, how are you a half dragon born with, you know, a Dampier lineage and a Warforged, but your brother's like, there's sometimes you can, by the book, put things together and they work, but then you're just like, give me the real story here. Give me. And then there are people who are like, no, I just want it because of what these things can do, which that level of synergy is not what I like. I
kind of like how we put together Shazam. Like imagine if Shazam was an actual character who was a Dampier, who had I just wanted to be able to do all the things Shazam does.
No, does that make sense? Not the fuck at all. That's why pop culture builds aren't really there for the role play.
Exactly.
They're there for the representation. And that's the difference between what I mean by consistent synergy is there's pop culture build synergy. We make it to work together. But then there's that synergy of why. Like you said, there's one thing to say, oh, I'm doing a Goliath because this particular Goliath race has this resistance and I want that for my character. That's not a synergy that I'm okay with in terms of my own character building. I'm not just going to choose Goliath because the rest of my build really needs that resistance, so I'm choosing that race. I'm going to choose that race because, oh, what I know about the setting, and I want to be this wizard, but I want to have a unique trait. You know, I've never been a tall character. I kind of want to have that, like, I got to lean into doorways. I want chairs to break when I would get into that. So I would choose a Goliath, but then I would modify my story to be like, well, why am I a Goliath that's a wizard? Not to say that Goliaths can't be wizard, but the typical Goliath is seen as this brute. What's my story that got my Goliath into being a wizard? So when I say consistent synergy, it's not like, so if I had another race where I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to be? I want to be this big thing. Maybe I choose a Goliath and I'm like, ooh, it would actually make sense, right? I was born with a deficiency. I can easily explain that. And then I find a different race, has the same feature, but I'm like, well, how do I explain that I was like born to a centaur, but I wanted, you know what I mean? Like maybe this area doesn't make sense that I have like all of this craziness, whereas I could make a better logical story with one race or the other. So that's what I mean by, and it's great for me, but it encourages me to choose the one that fits the build the best, but not necessarily fits the narrative the best.
And I think this articulates just the huge difference in which I play D&D, because the first thought that I have in scenarios like this, because like say I wanted to choose tiefling just because they get fire resistance and I want to be like a fire wizard, but I don't really care about being a tiefling. Like it would be way cooler if I was a warforged, but warforged don't get fire resistance, and I really want to be able to have fire resistance because that would make a lot of sense and blah 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 blah. So my initial thought is, why can't I find a way to give my warforged fire resistance?
Right.
Warforged innately get this AC buff. Well, what if the type of warforged that I am is made out of a different material than majority of warforged, and instead of getting an AC buff, I get resistance to fire damage because I was made out of this unique fire resistant material.
And I like that way more. Trying to figure that out with your DM sounds way more fun to me and way more approachable than building something that just has all of those things, even though you're like, I mean, yeah, like there's nothing that says you can't be, a half dragon, half tiefling, like fire mage that has a breath weapon and fire resist. Like there's nothing that says we can't do that. Although I don't know how a tiefling and a dragon, especially because in my world, like they're like mortal enemies. Sure. Like that's what I mean by like, if you went out of your way and said, hey, I'm really like, I don't want to be a tiefling, but I'm really looking forward to this, but my build makes the most consistent synergistic sense to be a warforged. I'm more interested in rewarding that, trying to make it make the most sense than just saying, well, I'm going to just min-max and choose the one that has the ability I want, regardless of how well it fits. And that's it. Like we approach the build differently, but our outcome wants to be the same. We want a build that makes sense while still giving us what we want to do. I just don't want to choose things because of what it can do. I want to make sure that as it adds to my story,
I think that a huge piece of the puzzle that a lot of people, I'll probably say, disagree with me. I mean, here's lightweight my hot take. You don't have to take everything. Period. Like, no matter what it is, whether it's a class, a subclass, a race, and anything, you don't have to take it all, right? Whenever I'm looking at a lot of these homebrew creations, the first thing I think on a lot of the things that I'm talking about is like, I would keep that and I would change that. And that's exactly how I would pull it into my game. I don't need to I will just do what I want to do with it because it's my game.
Yeah.
Because it's our game, because I'm working together with all of these people at this table to build this game. And what do you want to do? What do you want? Like, let's make that thing happen. Like I'm building this weird hybrid class right now that's like half rogue, half paladin. Right? It's like you have the ability to like hide and all this stuff. You're not allowed to wear armor, but you can smite instead of sneak attack. Right? It's just a different way of doing different things because they follow this god, but like their entire vibe is a little bit different. So that's what you wanted to do. So why not make that happen? Right? So it's a very interesting approach. And again, I know I do it way more aggressively than a lot of other people do it. Like I'm comfortable homebrewing a lot for my games.
Yeah, same.
And a lot of people are like, it's too much work. It's too much for me to keep track of. Too much for me. I get it. I understand, but you don't have to take everything.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
And there are
you can make small modifications without having to overload yourself.
Yes,
just to make sure it works for both you and your player.
Amen. Definitely.
Always make sure it works for everyone, not just for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
All right, nice little tangent there. Nice little tangent.
Facts.
All right, well, back to the Capyborn.
Back to it.
So size is medium.
Perfect.
I expected a little bit bigger, but I almost expected large.
Okay, so Capyborns are lightweight little hamsters, right?
Capyborns are huge though. They're like dog. They're like pit bull sized hamsters.
Let me
look them up. Them bitches are fucking huge, dude. Like, yeah, like you hold one and I mean, if it were able to stand on its hind legs, I'm pretty sure they get up to like 5 feet tall. Like, I'm pretty sure these things are just giant, fluffy, pit bull sized.
God bless America.
What image did you pull up?
There are.
Yes. Dude, they are absolute monsters.
Is that a normal size one?
Yes, that is absolutely standard size.
That's normal size one.
These things are not little cuddly pets. These things are like, imagine, you know how we talk about like big fauna back in the dinosaur ages? Imagine that thing, but the size of a car, and that would be the dinosaur. Like, that's literally what dinosaurs look like, just a tenth of the size.
Then I'll say this: I am as comfortable with them being medium as the tabaxi, because imagine like a panther, probably relatively the same size as that, and they're still size medium.
That's fair.
So, but like the hippo, that one large. For sure is, I can totally see being large.
All right.
But no, I did not. I thought these were like cats or like hamsters or something like that. Like, God bless America.
These are bigger than hogs, dude. These things are like
wild,
crazy size.
Wild. All right, good to freaking know.
So you are humanoid. I want more non-humanoid options.
Okay,
there's so few, because you get like what, the arachnid with like the spider feet behind you, but still a humanoid torso.
I've not seen that as a playable race.
Is that not playable anymore?
The only ones that I've seen are the Ashanti with the kind of like snakish, where they have like a snake body.
The Ashanti. I thought you could have the playable race for the arachnids,
and then you have the centaurs
and things like that. But
even theoretically, what are the ones with the goat legs? Those are theoretically still humanoids. They just have different.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like, why are we always humanoid?
Because the question is, like, again, when you're walking around, like, what are you for the most part interacting with? Even NPCs, how many non-humanoid NPCs do you have?
Actually, quite a bit, depending on where you are. Like, to be honest.
So give me an example of like 3 different NPCs that are non-humanoid, like that aren't like inanimate objects, like Bob the Skull or something like that.
I mean, I have minotaurs, which.
But minotaurs they're not humanoid?
Or centaurs. I have
centaurs.
I have several centaur like NPCs. I'm sure. I don't think you've met any of them.
I have not,
ironically,
no.
But yeah, I mean, granted, you've been in mostly the same strip as where everything's settled out. But yeah, I feel like that's just more of a. I feel like that's more of a traditional expectation in storytelling trope, like. I think of like, you know, like you think of like cartoons and other things where they really do represent, like even Men in Black, how they represent like the hustling and bustling of a very unique mix.
I could see it a lot more in sci-fi areas, but even in the majority of fantasy eras, any sort of NPC that you run into, I feel like is at the very least has anything that has language has for the most part a humanoid figure. Yeah. And I feel like it's not a requirement, a prerequisite, but it's just.
I think it's comfortable. I think it's very easy
traditional,
and comfortable. But
you know,
I would like to. That's why I would like to see us
branch out a little bit. And I'm not mad at that either.
Just a little bit more. Like you know, why couldn't you just have it to where like an Aarakocra, but less humanoid, where you really are just a walking, talking like falcon that's like just 6 foot tall, but you can still walk in through doors. You can still talk to people. You just don't have like, you know, hands and whatnot. But like.
I would say that might be the biggest thing, is it limits what a character can do in a lot of ways, depending upon the humanoid features that you remove from them, right?
Well, and it depends on how the interactions work, right? Like if you're expecting them to touch things, right? But if you make a world that's more inclusive to the idea that this is how it works.
Yes.
I think that's just more on a storyteller's, right?
But I think that might require a lot of adjustments and like awareness, because I think that even in our world, like me as a right-handed person, I don't recognize how significantly our world is geared towards right-handed people versus left-handed people, right?
And trying to represent like little inconsistencies like that in the game.
Exactly. It's 'cause, like, and I can't imagine how much more I would see that for people who, if you don't have an opposable thumb, what all things can you not do? Like, what all things are going to be incredibly challenging for you to accomplish? Just everyday normal. Oh, sorry, you can't do that. You don't have hands. Oh, sorry, you can't do that. You don't have hands. Oh, sorry, you can't.
But again, that's where I think like the nature of the game would also shift as well, right? It wouldn't just be a drop this into an every standard campaign and then run into the same problems. Like, I can't pick lock. I don't have hands. Why are you having that? Why are you offering picking locks to a game where you know people don't like? I feel like it just,
so it'd be more like you would have to, it'd be almost like a showcase, like you would have, it would have to be setting specific,
or it would have to be like just more of the Ashanti, just the idea of the humanoid being just bipedal, 2 arms 2 legs. That's, I think, is what I'm talking about getting rid of, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this like you're, you know, in wild shape the whole time.
Sure.
But I just feel like everything having to just have 2 arms 2 legs is kind of what I'm just talking about. Like, again, the Ashanti, perfect example of what I would like to see more of, right? Just give me more 4-legged creatures. Give me more people that just have, you know, different formities of how they represent themselves that still work, but doesn't have to be like give me more ape-like playable species that do not walk upright. That have to walk on all 4. So you wouldn't call that humanoid. Like, I mean, I guess you could call that humanoid, but like, drop the idea that everything has to walk and act like a human. Like, again, you know, Men in Black may be an extreme example, but like Rick and Morty do it as well. Like, you can represent things like if you have a slime creature or a creature like a snake creature that doesn't have arms, why not make it have like a backpack that has a very low level like mage hands that can only go out like 5 feet? So we can just grab things and put it in its backpack, and it just is like, oh, I have this necklace that's telepathic. I just get 5-foot mage hands. That's powered by a magical backpack. Like, because I could see that in Rick and Morty, or like a slime creature that's like inside like a little, you know, like belt that does things for it. That, I know you said that's more existent in sci-fi, but I still think that most TTRPGs could look at that and go, hey, you know, why can't, you know, you say that a bird creature can't like pick it up with its, you know, beak and like have like a little pouch here, like it just has like a little bandolier, that it just can just poop, 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 and it's bit, and you know, the bandolier wouldn't be built for a human; it would be built for a bird to be able to like shove in pockets. So
I mean, I definitely believe there's so many different ways that you could work that through, and I think that more people should. I think it feels like it would be a lot more on like the homebrew side rather than like the standard issue side, which is why I think a lot of the times when you see in our reviews, we are seeing the more standard issue side, because a lot of what these people are trying to represent is what somebody can just take and throw in their game. Right. And it might be hard for them to throw a non-humanoid thing in their game super easy like that. So
true. That's not a bad idea. I still want to encourage more.
I very much agree. I very much agree. I feel like there is a marrying of that. There's a way to implement the backpack idea into the race itself. Like, like imagine, because they have what do you call it now? What are those? They have these little droids, right? And they even have a race called. They literally can like change their limbs. Like they're these weird like
forgot like amoebic type of like, you know, amorphous whatever.
Yeah, but they have the ability to like do different things, and so like I feel like there's a way where you can
give it a companion, just like a small little companion that can like do things for it. You know what I mean? Like
how would that even like I think that would be so cool if there was like a symbiotic relationship. So like the race has 2 entities to it. Right, and like one does a certain aspect of it, and another race does another aspect of it.
Like your character is like a human size, like 6 foot tall, like hawk, but you also have an imp rider. So the imp rider is what like hops off whenever you're like in a shop, and it like has like a little backpack and does everything. But when you play your character, it's always riding the hawk. Like it's just always in like a harness.
Sure.
It's what's talking. But combat, movement, everything else is in the form of a hawk, but your talking and your actual interaction is the writer.
So,
And that could just be a fun little, like, why not? Like, there's no immersion breaking if he never comes off the writer. Like, that's, you see that kind of stuff in cartoons all the time where like that's just what it is, right? Like
there was this idea for a character and I freaking loved it and I kind of want to steal it. I still do. But basically this dude that found a sword somewhere and this sword is sentient and it's talking to this dude, and the dude is a regular dude. He is a freaking commoner. That's all he is.
Right.
All the stats you are, everything that's leveling up is the sword.
Huh.
The sword is all the things. The sword has got the reasons for wanting to go where they want to go. This person is literally just their transportation. They just figured out like, hey, I'm gonna take you where you want to go. I'm willing to help you out, be whatever it is you're trying to be, and I will wield you however you need to be.
Cool.
Like, it was a really cool idea, and
that's
I was
kind of
like,
dope. I like that.
That could be a very interesting way to like go about. You know, I mean, granted, it's like a sword, but like you can do it with other things.
Dope. That's kind of dope. I like that.
That'd be that's. I totally want to steal it so badly. I'm probably going to turn it into an NPC at a certain point and then figure out how to make it a playable character. But it's wild.
Now you're making me want to make a whole new type of module outside of de-evolved. I don't know why that just made me think of something else, but now I want to make an entire game where you flip the entire script. The entire game is you, as the DM, have built an adventuring party. And the players are the BBEG, like an advisory group. Like the whole point is them, like they hear about this adventure group coming after them at like level 1, and they only have so many resources. So like, what do you do? And they have to play out like the encounters. So they have to, like, you have 10 people right now. How many of them do you send out first to go scout out their power level? Where do you send them to do it? And then they roll the enemy while you play the adventuring party. And then if they win, like if the adventure party runs away, you get to level up and then you get more resources. But if they lose, you get a little bit of XP and then they level up.
Interesting.
And you as a BBG are having to level up.
So it's like, does the DM just create new adventuring party? If you kill the first adventuring party, they'll like create a new one and they'll send them. Okay.
You would like create a new one at the same level or one level down.
Sure.
You would level them up. But that would be fascinating.
That would be very interesting.
They're playing the bad guy, and instead of adventuring with a singular character, it's like you have so many resources to put together.
I think that could be a very cool module.
It would just be like a one shot, but it would be.
But that's
really
what yeah, exactly. Like setting it up so where it's like, hey, here's like the layout for your big bad guys. They're all level 20s. You have all these resources. You can do whatever you want to do.
I mean, you could do it. I mean, yeah, because
be sick.
That would
be sick.
We'll talk about this later. Anyway, moving on.
Anyways,
all right. So speed is 30. I think that's fine. Threatless nature. We have proficiency in animal handling. I actually really like that.
I do like that a lot, especially because of what they are. It makes them feel more in tune.
I would, because of their physicalness, I would also give them bonuses on charisma checks, like a bonus to a charisma check, or even like maybe even advantage when rolling for like deception or persuasion. Oh, how about that? What if threatless nature was proficiency in animal handling and a bonus to persuasion checks? Just because again you're cute, so people are like, I mean, he can't be lying to us, right? Like, look at him.
I could totally see, because I will say I like it when these some of the checks are specific when it comes to, so I would say persuasion checks to de-escalate a scenario, to like
even more specific than
to get somebody to like not see you as a threat, or to stop fighting you. I
was gonna go with like charm person, but that's not really a thing you can do. But like persuasion, just like, hey guy, you know, like
sure,
just understand who I am. Like, we're cool. I would say persuasion when de-escalating or attempting to initiate friendship, like something along those lines, where you are seen as, you are not persuasive, but you were seen as friendly. So you get bonuses on persuasion checks when trying to establish friendliness, or some way to mention that. Because I do like that. I think that's a better way to do it. Because I love the animal handling, but it should work on people. You should just be a big fuzzy creature and just be like, I can't be mad at you. Like, of course I trust you. Come on in here, big fuzzy guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that would just be a cute way to like like role play this.
That's legit.
We have unexpected power. You count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and weight. You can push, drag, or lift. I think that it should also account for grapple.
How so?
As in, you count as one size larger when attempting to be grappled. So if something has to like grapple a certain size, you would count as one size larger for that grapple contestation.
Oh, like I know there are some things that say you can only move things. So like if I'm grappling you, I can only move you if you're my size or smaller.
Yeah, something like that.
So something like that.
Just in the sense that if you're going to act as one size larger for carrying capacity, weight, and then what you can push, drag, and lift, I kind of want it for when if there ever is a time when your weight or your size matters, I think you should also count in general.
I will say personally,
like Goliaths.
Exactly like Goliaths.
Exactly.
I will say I do kind of like it when these write-ups tell me what the average or standard-ish height/weight of the race is. Like I find that valuable because
like, is this 6 foot or 7 foot? Is it 500 pounds?
That way I know like what I'm looking at. Like, am I looking at like this?
Because you know how big they are, and I'm thinking they're just big plump. So I'm just thinking grapple. Like, what are you holding on to?
Sure.
Like trying to grapple this thing is just like trying to hold like a giant beach ball. It's like you're only going to get so much of it.
Sure.
Which is the only reason why I would agree that one size larger in terms of like grapple.
Right.
Like it can't grapple things bigger than it, or again, whatever the terminology would be.
Sure.
But yeah, no, I like that though. I do still like just in general, it's counting as a size larger, especially for carrying capacity. That's okay. That's totally fine.
Cool.
Poison resistance. You have advantage on saving throws against poison. You have resistance against poison damage. I wonder why.
I'm curious too. Maybe capybaras naturally are kind of resistant to poison in some way, shape, or form.
I've never heard of that. I was thinking because they're big fuzzy, I was thinking maybe like cold I could understand, or maybe there's something in their physiology that would make sense for their environment.
I was even kind of thinking going down the direction you were talking about earlier, just like having resistance to the charmed condition.
Oh
whatever,
yeah, because
because you're less likely to be
people are almost charmed by you before they can charm you.
Right.
Okay. I like charm resistance over this, but oh, maybe even gaze really isn't an issue in 5th edition anymore.
I mean, theoretically they have the spell, and then you still got like
gaze attacks used to be like a whole like classification, and you can actually have like immunity or resistance to gaze attacks. But that was like a whole classification of that. That doesn't make much sense to me. Yeah, I'm not sure why the poison. I think I would go with something else over poison.
Okay.
Like against the charmed effect or something like that. Maybe not for this particular animal, but like if we ever get another type of playable species that's that references an animal that's kind of known for like just eating anything, just like something that can just like literally consume anything, it would be great.
Like the lizard folk?
Yeah. Like it would be great to add in a feature where you don't need rations as long as you can roll for, like vegetation. Like essentially you can just eat garbage and it doesn't matter. Like you can always gain health and sustain yourself as long as there's just something
the
around.
Lizard folk can legit eat their prey, eat what they kill.
Yeah.
And that sustains them. Like that is,
I think that's role play wise should be mostly acceptable. But you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't saying for this, but I was thinking of the poison resistance. I'm like, man, just imagine like you guys are out in the desert and it's like, is there a cactus? I eat it. I'm fine. And like everyone else would only get like some benefit, but you just it doesn't matter if I eat it, I'm fine. As long as it's not dirt, I can eat dirt, rocks, can't eat those, but
take a bite out of a tree.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
I kind of like having something that could just as a basic little passive thing of I just never have to eat.
That's funny.
I mean, we have races that don't let you sleep, eat, breathe, and do all of that. Yes. Why can't I have one that basically says I can eat whatever the fuck I want and survive?
Absolutely wild.
Innocuous appearance. As a bonus action, all creatures that can see you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, DC 8 plus your proficiency bonus, or be unable to make attack of opportunities against you until the start of your next turn. You may use this feature a number of times equal to proficiency bonus per long rest. So it's a limited number of disengages. But it's line of sight. So that means you could dash with one. So unlike a rogue that can only disengage against a target, you could dash through a field of enemies and never get touched because it's one action for the entire round. So you could have like 5 enemies in front of you, activate this, and then dash.
Disengage is also for the rest of your turn.
Oh, I thought it was only against the one enemy. If
No,
you
that's-
keep passing other enemies,
Yeah,
okay, so,
you disengage because it's an action to disengage, and so like
okay, so all of your movements considered defended. I thought it was just against the one. Okay, so yeah, so this is basically a limited use disengage. You just get disengage
as a bonus action.
A number of your
But
proficiencies.
I like that it's a limited because like as a rogue, like that's like one of your core things is like a rogue and a monk. You get that disengage as a bonus action. That's super valuable. This is a limited version of that, and it's a little bit different because they have to succeed on the wisdom save. It's not guaranteed. I think it should be higher than 8 plus your proficiency bonus because at first level, it's just a 10. They have to get past a 10 in order to not be affected by that, and therefore it's almost useless. Like, most things will probably be able to, like, it's a 50-50 chance that they're going to fail to it, you know? And, you know, depending on what their bonus is to a wisdom save, I mean, maybe it could. I would do 10 plus a stat. That's kind of how I would do it. 10 plus your wisdom bonus, 10 plus your charisma bonus.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Pokenator. I'm not really feeling this at all. It's kind of just a really weird disengage. Honestly, by the name alone, I would have rather had this be like, because we already talked about how the proficiency with animal handling, right? What if this was the opposite, or the human version, right? So you have animal handling. Instead of this one, the innocuous appearance, what if this was like you inflict disengage on insight checks? Like, essentially people never like have to second quest whether they're going to second question you, right? Like, you just look innocent at all times. So people to do an insight check have disadvantage because they're not even sure they should. Or something like that, like innocuous appearances, and you don't look like a threat. So maybe this could be like you can't have a surprise round. Or this might be too powerful. But what if innocuous appearance means that once per encounter, or just for every encounter, you can't be the target of attack until you attack. As in, when initiative starts, until you become a threat, you aren't a threat. That's innocuous appearance.
What if someone's not attacking you because you're a threat? Meaning, like, say if somebody was specifically sent to assassinate this Capyborn. Does that mean...
I think that's different. I think that might be more of a role play motivated. I'm just talking about, like, you know, round starts and there's an attack, you know, a surprise round. Capybara is safe. Because who's going to attack the Capybara? Like, I haven't attacked. I'm not a threat. Like, it's meant to be in those situations where when you're not first initiative or a surprise round of attack, it's kind of like giving you freedom against surprise, because until you become a threat, this passive feature just means that you're not going to be the first to be targeted. That would be the intent. Is it's kind of just giving you some free time. Would you say that's
limited to the first round of combat only? Because if that's the case, then if it's not the case and it's just until you become a threat, then imagine I'm just the druid or the healer, and I'm just sitting here casting support stuff. No one's ever going to attack me.
But then you could say that by healing the enemy, you've become the enemy. Like, it could just be like you're not attacked until you do something.
Sure.
I don't know if indefinitely, like as in until you make an action, but I like the idea that any action that's against the enemy. So as long as you don't move within like 5 feet of an enemy, you don't heal a target and don't do any attacks. Basically, as long as you don't do anything threatening or against the enemy. So as long as you're sitting there, as long as you're not healing, attacking, doing spells, or moving directly at an enemy.
I like the idea that it would be a free check for the aggressor. I think it should be a check. So that way it's not like there's a level 20 guy and he just can't attack you because you look innocent.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
You know, like, imagine you have to like roll like a certain insight check against this person with like a certain set DC.
So kind of like the wisdom save.
It's the same thing. It's like let me roll an insight check to see whether you are an enemy or not.
Until you okay. And I don't even mind, like, I wouldn't mind putting it like for the first like 2 rounds, 3 rounds. Like, I like the idea that instead of it being this like bonus action to disengage, it sounds better that this would be more of a, you just don't look like a threat, so no one's going to go after you. So whether that's as small as you just can't have a surprise of opportunity against you, So they can't, they won't. So it's more like, instead of you can't be surprised, it's just more that no one will ever attack you if you are surprised. That's the difference in lore. It works the same way as not being surprised. Like, you just can't have a surprise round, but it works out more or less as in they'll just never attack you because you're not the threat yet. I don't know if that sounds better.
I see what you're going with. I think the direction that I would probably say is something to the effect of, until, if you have not acted yet in combat, they don't perceive you as a threat until they've made that check, until they've succeeded in that check, right? If you have not acted in combat, like, say if I just pass my turn and do absolutely nothing, they're still not going to see me as a threat, right? Until I've done something.
Okay, so Pokédex has an alternative. Until you make your first turn, or until you do your, whether it's until you make an, attack or an aggressive action, or just until your first initiative, attacks against you would be at disadvantage. Essentially, you're not the priority. Now, that doesn't really, that doesn't really inflict the same idea that you aren't the priority. It's just a disadvantage.
It is, but like I the way I kind of look at it is when I think of you're not the priority, I think of how the spell is it Sentry?
Mm-hmm.
What is the spell?
Sentinel? No.
Sanctuary. There it is. Sanctuary, where is until the spell ends, any creature who targets the warded creature with an attack or harmful spell must make a wisdom save. On a failed save, they must choose a different target.
Okay.
So it's like, you can't be targeted for a thing. Like, if you're in an AoE, you're in an AoE. If you can't be the target of a thing until or unless you make an attack. And if they try to target you, they have to make a save of, oh, that's a cute capybara, let me go attack something else instead.
So yeah, something like that sounds great, actually. I think that sounds better than disengage. Just being able to have this momentary pause, whether it's a check or not, just, I like the idea of giving this thing basically a moment of pause against enemies. Enemies are just going to just not instantly go after it. I feel like that feels better than disengage.
I agree.
And it even goes along more with this. We have animal handling. We would have this as a you can't target me right away. And then even after that, we have affectionate legacy, which is, the friends can't trip. So not being the initial target, whether it's in a surprise round, the first round of attack or whatever, that would give you that opportunity to then cast friendship. You know what I mean? Like everything would play into the idea that you are not a fighter. Like your first instinct is to de-escalate, and all of those seem to match. The poison and the disengage, they don't work with this idea that, other than if you're just running away, right? But I don't feel like it's the same as trying to be friends with things, right? I feel like this idea that just don't attack me, I'm not a threat. It feels like that's the same aura as something that came from a world that there is no fighting.
I will say, and this is just where I have a problem, with 5th edition right now. I think the majority of 5th edition's enchantment spells are bad.
Yeah.
Just the way that they function, especially friends, because, when you look at these spells, not only do they only work for a very short period of time, the other person instantly knows you're the bad guy, and they're going to instantly want to beat you up. They're instantly going to want to like make this up. So it's really hard to find value.
It's almost as if the game's geared towards combat. Like it's like geared towards trying to get people into encounters.
I mean, so but it's like, if I'm gonna have an ability, like I want it to feel like it does a thing. Like, what am I gonna get out of casting this on somebody?
Like if I'm gonna cast this to get by a guard, I don't immediately want to have to, like, if I'm trying to sneak into a place and I friend the guard and he lets us by, I don't want 2 seconds later the guard to be like, hey, wait a minute. Like,
at the very least,
like, the point was that the guard is just going to sit there and be like, huh, what a nice guy. And then go on with his night as if it never happened. Like, that's what you expect friends to be, right? Be like, oh, that guy. And then it fades from their memory.
Although I will say, say me and my party come up to this guard. So the friends cantrip theoretically works for a minute and it has concentration, right? So it says, for the duration, you have advantage on all charisma checks directed at one creature of your choice that isn't hostile towards you. When the spell ends, the creature realizes you used magic to influence its mood and becomes hostile towards you. So if I use this on a guard and me and like two of my party members are behind me and be like, hey buddy, man, we're just here to go hang out. Like the Star Wars people. These are not the droids you're looking for. Yeah, we belong in this party. Let me into the club, whatever the case may be. Would you say as soon as he fails, as soon as he says that, or would it last the whole minute? Because the way I read this, it would last the whole minute.
It does. It lasts the whole minute as long as you're concentrating. Like it doesn't end with you getting one over on him. Like just because they made the checks, right? The whole minute you get the benefits. So you have to not only interact with them, get the checks off.
Because I can see that being a little bit more feasible. Because I have a whole minute to leave the area, and if a guard is waving at me saying, "Oh yeah, this guy, he's good," then all right, then I got somebody vouching for me. I got somebody letting me in.
It really depends on like if it's just one of those, let me see your ID. Are you on the list? Okay, cool, go by. But if you have to kind of finesse the conversation, a minute goes by very quick, and that's why I think you're right. The enchantment's not that great. What it should be,
I mean, it is a cantrip, so it shouldn't be like too powerful.
It shouldn't be the force. It shouldn't be overall, I'm going to take over your brain. But it really should be more than like what I would do is I would rewrite it to say something along the lines of you get benefits for up to a minute, but with every fail, because it gives you advantage, right? Mm-hmm. With every fail, they get a chance to roll, and if they roll, they realize they're under magic. So like, I cast friends on you for the next minute. Hey buddy, just let us in. Like, look at the rogue. Look, he can pull some bitches, right? Like, rogue, tell him how cool you are. And the rogue comes up and says, yeah, I mean, like, I walk into a place, a bunch of people are gonna show up. Oh, I rolled a 3 on my, perception. So I got advantage. Okay, well, I rolled a 5. So then the guard would roll to see, does he catch on to the fact that you're full of shit? Or does the spell maintain?
So,
and but if you fail and he gets a roll, he can snap out of it, and that's when he becomes hostile. But in my opinion, if you go the entire minute and do not fail any of the rolls, the guard will end neutrally, and he won't be hostile towards you, but he'll no longer be friendly. So if you're still in the middle of the conversation, he'll drop the friendliness and be like, wait, are you still, all right, wait, what was your name again? But if you get by him in that minute and then walk off and the spell drops, he's going to be like, anyway, next. Like, I feel like it should be less of a guaranteed he's going to be hostile and more of a, while he's more perceptive, or he's less perceptive of your lies. But I feel like if you go off the whole minute and no one fails a check and he doesn't, check, or he doesn't make any of his like saves, I think he should just go on oblivious that anything happened to him. I don't get why, even though, and again, maybe it's because it's a cantrip.
It very much is, yeah.
And maybe the cantrip's too powerful in terms of what you get from it. But I don't think a guaranteed fail makes any sense.
I think that, again, because it's a cantrip, because it's like a social non-combat cantrip, I feel like it would be used in scenarios more similar to how we were talking about. I just need to check your ID real quick and then let you pass. Like, those moments, I feel like, are the more beneficial way to use it, rather than, like, I don't know, you're talking to the king and you want a whole,
and that's the thing, is I just
conversation
don't know,
out of it.
And maybe that's just a product of how it's written, is there is no better way to use it, right? Like, I mean, how many times are you really just quickly trying to walk by someone who is going to forget you, even if they're hostile towards you, right? More often than not, you want to get past a guard into the castle.
Sure.
You don't want to use this because he's immediately gonna like.
But I will say this, depending on your DM, how many times is that guard gonna think, oh shit, I just let these people in? If I'm hostile towards you, I know that I let the wrong person in, but am I really gonna go rat myself out? Am I really gonna go let these people know
that is one way to interpret it. But that's only what, that the other way would be hey, wait a minute.
Yes,
this is I'm the king's guard. I can't let, like, so that's where I just feel like I agree with you. Enchantments like this fall short in 5th because they're either there to incite an encounter.
But I'm actually curious, do you have any examples of what a 2nd edition or a different edition or different application of an enchantment spell like this would work in another edition?
I'm pretty sure the original version of this didn't auto fail at the end of it. I'm pretty sure that it didn't also.
But outside of that, it was for the most part the same.
I'm pretty sure. I don't think it gave you like full an advantage. I don't remember if it gave you actual like advantage or just a bonus. But originally, I'm pretty sure it was a very slight boost, kind of like guidance to just interact with people, but it wasn't a guaranteed they would catch on. And that's just my thing. Is I just anything that's like a guaranteed fail like that, what you're basically telling them is be very, very. I mean, I get that you want to be very resourceful with magic, but I don't know. It just feels like when you force both the players and the DMs to craft a situation where it's useful, it's not useful. Does that make sense? Like, because in the real world, getting past a quick ID check is beneficial all the fucking time, right? Being able to in 1 minute just tell someone, hey, you don't need to see my ID, let me just buy that real quick. You could probably get away with that more often than not with a quick exchange of cash, with a quick card, card wipe. But in D&D, how many, even for DMs, and this is just trying to be honest, right? How many of us DMs really give players a quick opportunity to just one and done a conversation? Like, how often are you going to run into somebody who only wants to quickly check your ID, and this is going to work?
I mean, I will say this. To me, I could see this used in a shop trying to get a discount for something. Yep. I could see this used in the library trying to find out where like a restricted book is.
I'm not saying that there aren't ways that you could come up with it, but I'm just saying that like for DMs, right? Like, it's not a natural state to have most conversations be able to end, I would say, like with a quick, let me just change your opinion so I can get a couple rolls out, and it not be a great devastation to have you instantly hostile. I feel like that is depending upon the severity of what's happening. If this is like a plot changing conversation, you're darn tootin'. It's not going to be no 1 minute, just like quick one and done. Yeah. But if it's like anything outside of that, if you're just shopping, if you're just walking around, if you're just out in the everyday and you're just trying to do some everyday stuff, I could say most of those conversations are going to be quick enough to where something like that would be effective, because again, it's looking at the grand scheme of the story and what you're creating. It's like, I'm not trying to like literally become ingratiated with all of these knights and be like this famous person. I'm just trying to get from point A to point B. I'm just trying to get this particular thing. Now, again, depending upon the level, like if I'm trying to convince this dude that I can buy this very rare thing for free, because no, like that's not gonna happen. But yeah, I feel like, at least with the examples that I've seen, I don't foresee, again, like I said, I feel like with something the way that they're written, like with something like Friends, and like you said, it's as if it's made for both the players and the DMs to find a reason to make it useful instead of it being inherent.
Yes, it does feel like you got to be very intentional. You got to be very intentional in order to choose a cantrip like this. Like not every other, but most other cantrips are obviously useful. Although I will say there have been a couple that I really wanted to be useful, but I just haven't been able to. Like I will say there aren't enough. Booming Blade, I love the idea of Booming Blade, but every time I try it, it never actually pops off. Right? It's basically one of those ones where I, as a bonus action, the next melee attack that I do, if it hits, then that person, if they move willingly before the end of my next turn, they take damage. Oh, okay. Right? So I have to, number one, hit them. Number two, get away from them, or have a reason to make them need to move again. Right. And so, because if you're just going to stay in melee range, they're not going to move. Until most recently, when this new edition came out, and what is it? I think it's Warhammers or like some other like heavier weapons have the ability to, when you hit a target, you can push them. Okay, so like I smash them, I move them back, and then Booming Blade wreathes around them. So in order for them to come back in combat with me, they have to move. So like that kind of works, and I don't have to worry about like disengaging because I already used my bonus action and all the. Yeah. So it works in that way, but like a lot of the times it can be super challenging for some cantrips to actually find a purpose. So yeah, so I would just say that I don't disagree with you. I do like it, and so yeah, going back to the build, I think the two things that really just don't stand out is that I just don't understand the poison resistance. I just don't know why we're doing poison resistance. I think charmed would be a fine resistance to have. Sure, just resistance against being charmed.
And then the innocuous appearance. I don't like a modified version of disengage. I just don't think it works for the build or the lore. And I'm just not a fan of how this particular one works.
Like I said, I actually don't mind the ability itself. I would adjust how it works. I might adjust how often you could use it. Like, I would play with it a little bit. I don't think I would use it as is, but I like the general idea of like, hey, you know, I have this other way of using like disengage or a type of disengage or whatever the case.
I don't mind
may
another
be.
version of it. I just don't know if it works for this build.
Sure.
Sure.
And I don't disagree with that either. So
and because we get, you know, the friendship cantrip, because we're getting animal handling, I do just like, I would prefer that the innocuous appearance give you some sort of benefit against being attacked.
Sure.
Whether it's during a surprise round, whether it's the first round of combat, whether it's until your initiative, until you make a hostile move. I don't care what it is. I think that makes the most sense with everything else we've seen. And I think that would add a very unique aspect to roleplay. Right? Just being able to not be the initial target. Right. You know, it's and DMs could have fun with that too, because then maybe that means that when, you know, the DM has a plan where you're gonna, you know, all be suspects in a mystery or whatever, and so they're, you know, maybe he rolls to see who's gonna be the first one to have to like be thought out. Maybe because you're this character, maybe he's like, but no one suspects you. I'm gonna let you go off with this one because
I'm a capybara.
And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like we could really lean into this idea that you are just the one that no one thinks about twice.
Sure.
Man, that would be that's I think a more fun thing. So I like it overall. It's not a bad build. Those are the only two things I would change: the poison resistance, the innocuous appearance. Everything else is pretty spot on. And it's a cool idea. I mean, just expanding out between the types of playable races and really filling out the different types of creatures you can be. You know, we don't necessarily need one for every creature in existence.
Sure.
But I also don't want a standard humanoid beast-like creature that has a standard block, and then it just has a few areas where it's like, based on the animal, you can adjust the speed in this, but everything else is the same. Like, I don't want to just look like the creature. I'm loving these that bring out the features of the creature.
Yes.
So I think with this one, pretty strong, pretty good idea. But, you know, nothing groundbreaking, you know, nothing like absolutely amazing. I think just pushing us and more encouraging into these new unique builds. So I'll give it a solid 6. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not, you know, like super awe-inspiring, but it's very close to being like super workable. I think most people could use it as is. I just think that it could be fine-tuned to flow a little bit better for a role play heavy use. I think right now it's fine mechanically. You know, it would work just as is, but I think this build, this particular race, deserves to have more role play than it does to have mechanics, if that makes more sense.
Got you.
Like, it'll stand out so much more in the hands of a role player than it will in someone who's just min-maxing.
Makes a lot of sense.
So, yeah, hopefully that was good. Let us know at home what you guys thought. Did you like the Capyborn? Which abilities did you like the best? And do you agree with our changes? Really curious to let you know. But I hope Desmar really enjoyed that. If you are watching the VOD, let us know in Discord how you liked it. But otherwise, that's going to be us for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We'll be back next week as always, but I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend ahead of you, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.
Good.
We like.
Oh, all right. So other than that, I think at this point we are.
So I've been playing a little game with myself every time we do homebrew reviews.
Oh yeah.
It's just before you give the score, I predict what score I think you're gonna get, what score I think you're gonna give, and I just like pre put it in the leaderboard.
I wish we could do that as like a prediction, like just do like a above 5, a low, or you know, like a. We should do that.
Right.
You know, you have a barbarian next. Pokemon wants to know what were the other ones.
Oh, the other ones that he has left. Yes, let me take a gander.
We also need Dez's average and
already posted. It's a new it's a 7. This is average.
Nice. All right.
Let me look up you real quick, Pokeniner, on our leaderboard. So we did your druid subclass last. We have your barbarian subclass coming up. After which I believe we have 2 ranger subclasses coming up.
2 rangers.
And a warlock. We have the Aegis Strider is one of the rangers. The Tundra Titan is another ranger. And the Scaled
And we just got another
is the
submission.
warlock. That submission is his update to the barbarian.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes. Boom. But yeah, so those are the 3 that you have coming up after the barbarian: Aegis Strider, Tundra Titan, and the Scaled. Yeah, I am excited for those ones coming up, Pokeniner. I really hope. I know you've gotten like a bunch of collections of things, so I hope we see more from you in the future. But I've been loving going through your collection so far. It has been very, very cool. So I'm hyped for it. What I do want to do, where is it? Schedule.
I think I know how.
Hello. Oh yeah, he was strolling. He was just vibing.
So I have another thing I'm working on. Because now that MisfitGamersStudios is unleashed, unchained from D&D, now
Sure.
that we're just building on it, I keep thinking of just like dumb things to do. And you know how you sent me that really awesome content creator that physically makes their own dice from the ground up and does all the rolls and then puts all of it together and then like makes them. You sent me the video of it.
Makes their own dice or creatures?
The dice. Remember, you showed me he like does rolls for like what color, what filament.
Oh,
what
yeah.
He actually, like does the resin and stuff. So I'm like, that's great if you have a hobby that creates things, right? Like that would be great. But we don't have that. So I had another dumb idea, like a really dumb idea.
We love those.
But it's sad because I know it could actually work. Like it could. Well, not necessarily will, but it could. And I'm half tempted to create another TikTok channel just to do it.
Oh, another channel? Okay.
Like it might be at the end of the summer, but I actually might do this because it's so fucking dumb it might work. So I can buy bulk dice, and you can buy bulk like awesome dice, not like the cheap just crap,
Sure.
whatever dice, but you can buy just like fuck tons of dice, right? I can buy custom dice or non-custom dice. I'll just buy, I buy sets or individuals, but you get really unique ones, right? You get ones people want. And then I go live on like TikTok. I think it would work better on TikTok than Twitch.
Okay.
So go live on TikTok, right? And I basically kind of act like a cross between like one of those like little, like the old school infomercial shops, like the old school infomercials that you used to see like in the middle of the night. And so cross between that and the card openers that are on TikTok, the people that like get booster packs and open them and are like, what are we gonna get today? Like, oh my God, are we gonna get the holograph? Like, so imagine a cross between those two. Kind of like the guy who does like, the making, but less edited. But here's what I do. I show off the dice. I do a whole little like spiel about them, talk about them, make them sound really cool. This is
Like
onyx with gold flecks and silver light, just like do that thing. And then the stream is me proceeding to take that die or the, either one die or a set, and I roll it 100 times. And I would have like a little sheet that I like a Excel sheet that I would just be able to like put in all the numbers, and then it would have like a couple little like calculations, right?
Kind of like the roll curve or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have like these little printed cards that I would be able to fill out when I'm done, and it would be like the name of the dice, the date, how many rolls. And then like a couple little stats like that, just like roll curve, this, that,
Sure.
and then I'll like sign it off with like
Average
is it lucky,
of.
is it an unlucky,
Yeah.
and then I sign it. And then I take that little card that I just like, it just has to be like a little like less than a 3x5 card, just like a little tiny thing. I would
Business
take
card.
that and the die, and then I would get just like little clear like cases, like little stupid cheap cases, and I would put both of them in there, seal it. Then I could fucking sell that on the shop.
Oh, heck yeah.
As a dice with a certificate of authenticity.
I mean,
how dumb would that be? Where you just come online and you just see me rolling dice, and then you just see me fill out this card, be like, all right, that one's $20, guys. It's on the shop now. If you want that particular dice, but you want it rolled 100 times, and know that, like, it's stupid because who does that? But it's dumb enough to work.
You know what? You know what I find interesting is, like, you could put stats like, this is how many times it rolled a 20, this is how many times it rolled a 1,
yes.
and this is the number that it rolled the most.
Yes.
And then like people who like say that's their favorite number be like, oh, I really want that one.
Yes.
Like that one rolled this one the most, but it also had 3 20s, right? Or whatever the case. You know, like it could be all kinds of different things, all kinds of, because listen, people are crazy superstitious about their dice. Like, I have my own beliefs about dice. Like, I don't believe in wasting rolls. A lot of people are like, oh, don't waste your 20s or whatever.
Oh yeah, it's always the same.
Like, but that's where a lot of people come from. It's like, yo, my dice has got so many nat 20s in it. If I roll it too much, then it's gonna lose. But like the way I operate is like, my dice tell me how they're rolling today. So like I do what I call my fortune rolls. I do 3 rolls ahead of time. You know, if the majority of those rolls are above a 10, you're doing okay today. You know, if I get a couple 20s in there, I've had ones that are just like,
yeah, but
you don't know what the heck you're doing today.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's so dumb that I could just literally just put my camera up like on one of my little things, just point it at my desk. I wouldn't even have to be on stream. It could be completely faceless. All I would just have to sit there and just talk and just be like, all right, guys, we got that one, we got that one, oh, this one's a hot one tonight. I just literally have to hype up the dice rolls and then put it on the website, and that's it. And that could be a whole separate channel where just every night I could just sit there and
imagine you do that, and then one of these days you end up rolling like 6 20s in a row just because you're doing like 100,
and then I'm like,
rolls.
this like, dice is $50.
One day, that shit's gonna happen.
And then you could price that one hella big. You could just be like, nope, this one's not good, I'm gonna price it hella low. And this one's like, this one's hot, we're pricing it today, chat. It's dumb.
Dude, you might even be able to, like, ones that like roll a certain amount, especially if you imagine if you had like a criteria, like if it rolled certain number of 20s, more than 2 20s in a row, like that one gets auctioned off. So it's like, yes, it starts off maybe at like $20-$30, but if somebody else really wants it, they can pump that mess up. I'm thinking,
yeah, the card could have like for out of the 100 rolls, it could have like the roll, you know, like good or bad. So is it lucky or unlucky? And like a little check mark of lucky or unlucky. How many consecutive 20s? How many consecutive ones? The most rolled number, the least rolled number.
I even think there's value in unlucky ones because DMs might want bad dice.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so I just the card, and then I would name them. So it's like I'd write the name of the die, that, you know, like whatever name I wanted, and then I'd be like, all right, so so out of 100 rolls, it rolled X number of 20s and X number of 20s in a row, X number of ones and X number of ones in a row. This is the most rolled number, the least rolled number, and I'm considering it lucky or unlucky. I sign it, and that's it. Like, so it's like a tiny little card that just has my handwriting on it and just some like think about like any, you know, kind of card that has like a little stamp of approval, right?
Sure.
That's all it would be.
I really think like a little business card would be all you need.
That's what I'm saying. That just a little business card size. But,
and you can create a little template on that, whatever that business card website is. Oh, hell yeah.
People would watch that. People would watch it just to decide if they're going to buy it.
And imagine if you rolled the 20 of a 7 dice set that way. So like there's a whole set of dice, but like you're just rolling the 20 that many times, and like that's like the head of it.
You buy the set, but the 20 is the one that has the certificate.
Yes, the 20 is the one that you roll.
Okay.
And so like they still feel like they're getting, like, say if they're like a newish player and they're like, hey, I want this to be for one of my characters. They're not just gonna get a 20. They're gonna get everything.
They'll get the whole set, but the 20 is the one that's been certified.
Yes.
I mean, hell, again, always thinking of pipe dreams, because it would always be, you know, it's always fun to like think about how it could go. You get so popular, you get to a point where people can send you their dice to get authenticated. Like, here, I want you to roll my dice, and I want you to like I want you to do it. Like, that would be dumb, but people would pay for that shit.
True.
Can you imagine going to a con and people are like, you're the dice roller guy? can you roll my dice for me? Like, can you authentic? Like, can you give me a certificate of that? Like, that's dumb that people would pay for a certificate of authenticity just to prove that the dice rolled a certain way because some random guy online rolled it 100 times.
I want you to have like just random like things that you do. Like you always wash your hands before you roll the dice.
You gotta do it on camera too. You gotta be like, okay, guys, here we go.
Yep,
I have like a special lotion that I'll put on my hands, and then I'll like spray my hands with like a scent.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here we go.
Exactly. All right. Hey, what flavor do you want on these dice? You want lavender scented? All right, I got you.
I roll like I like people that do with meat. I always have like a set of gloves on. Like, so I never touch them. I'm just like, okay, they're coming out of the, the gloves are on, they're coming out of the bag. And that could be a thing for people. Like if I buy dice and I show that I put like some nice white gloves on, like, like little, like the cleaning gloves, and then, or not like plastic gloves, but like,
like those fabric gloves.
So you get those, you pull it out, you show it off on camera because some nice lights, and then you just show yourself doing everything.
It's like a little ASMR channel, except not. Wild.
Is this too stupid, or is this just stupid enough to work?
Bro, listen, regardless of the answer to that question, I think the answer is yes. That's how I feel about it.
The answer is always yes.
The answer is yes. Like the answer is fuck it, let's go.
And that's really what it is that's probably going to be something that we do because it's just one of those things where it's like, again, it could literally be we do this every week and then I do that and then that's what's just racking in the money.
Hey,
it's dumb enough to
why fucking not?
But it would be on a different channel. I feel like it would have to be on a different channel. So yeah, that's I'm gonna be working on that.
MGS dice rollers.
MGS dice rollers, yeah.
Oh, did I? I did. I updated our schedule.
MGCA, Misfit Gamers Certificate of Authenticity.
Facts.
I think that's it. I think most of the updates are it's now that we've opened the floodgates to new projects, I have all of the projects, and it's I have a lot of projects, but for the first time in a long time, I have them all right where I want them. I have them all right where I but like unlike ADHD in the past where it's just been like hyper focus to hyper focus, all of these I've recognized I can't do all of them at once, and it would just overload me. But I've also recognized that I can properly align them, right? I know which ones need to get done in order for the next one to be more successful.
Sure.
So that's, I think, a much bigger benefit to where we're at now than where we were at 2 years ago.
Agreed.
Because ideas are not much more tangible and put into place in the larger project instead of just that would be cool if that happened one day. Now it's more of a, okay, so in 6 months expect an update. In 4 months expect an update. Next week expect an update.
And I think that helps keep us accountable as well, as not just like, throwing stuff out, because I'll do that like in my own personal projects. It's like, oh, this would be a cool idea, and then the idea just disappears into the background. It's still a cool idea, but
yeah, and that's why I want to put it out here, is because I want people to be hyped for it. I want not just to be held accountable, but I want people's hype.
Yes,
to be my accountability, to be like, oh yeah, people are expecting that shit.
They're motivated for it. I'm motivated for it.
Right? I want people to be expecting from us. So that's what we're working towards. OSR hopefully launching at least beta next month.
That would be very cool.
Starting on the publications next month, the website next month. The Oracle should be dropping in its first form next month to do some testing throughout the Discord. I might even make an Oracle bot for Discord.
That would be very cool. That would be very cool. Specific channel, maybe our subscribers get access to.
Yep. And then yeah, we're just building up from there. And community stream subathon next month. I'll have to work this week with Vixie on figuring out how that's gonna work. We busy. But we'll figure out how the subathon's gonna be working next month. But I am really excited to do a subathon. We'll probably do some mini paintings, but it's almost like we're treating this like a business now.
Almost.
It's almost like we have potential.
I mean, it kind of be like that though.
But a lot of this too is like these bigger projects. These bigger projects are also like long term. The website. Once the website's done, it's done. Once OSR is complete, we can just play it whenever we want. These are big projects, and there's a lot to do. Once we make the books, once we do the publications, those are built. Once D evolves out, that's just a game that people can go buy. Once the ADMG is out, that's just a book people can go and buy and reference. Like at that point, it's on to new projects, new publications. But it sounds like a lot right now, but that's all just because it's getting our ducks in a row to build that foundation. So all of these things are just new and evolved, right? It's like I want to do something similar that Dropout did. Like the more I imagine and dream of our future and what this brand could be, I don't just want to be another YouTuber or another Twitch streamer, right? I think about what Dropout did, and obviously I'm not thinking about going so far as to be a like skit comedy,
sure,
talk show / game show. But in the sense, what they did was they took what they were really good at, which was D&Ds and sketch comedy, and built upon that, right? They had, Brendan Lee Mulligan running the D&D side, but then they had Sam running like the game show side, which is where they built content. And that's kind of what I see Misfit Gamer Studios doing. I see all of these other things as like, we have our specialty and our foundation, but all of these other things are kind of like what you see about in Dropout, right? You start seeing these skits and these shorts about the other things that they've gone out. And I don't necessarily want to do a game show contest thing,
right? But
I do want to show off more of a
less of the game show idea and more of the variety idea and the evolution idea. It's like the same way that we come out with things like one shot rivals, or come out with things like subletting subclasses or whatever, our pop culture builds. Like those are things like a Game Changer and Make Some Noise. Make Some Noise came from Game Changer. That was one of the Game Changers, and I think actually might have been a Game Changer as well, or initially, and then it got so popular, people wanted to see it more. They just turned it into its own thing. It kind of
and that's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to do with Dropout, or like why I look at them as actually was really cool. Or what was the one that was actually the one where Brendan Lee would like force himself to take the opposite position of the guest star?
No, I don't know what that segment's called, but I see that a lot.
So that's like another segment that used to be a challenge where, again, in the game show, but then that turned into they would just have guests on, and that would just be a segment before they left. They'd be like, by the way, just give me a hot take and I have to take the opposite. And that's what I see Misfit Gamers now, right? I see us as that, not a game show or this skit comedy thing, but just to that stage where I feel like over the next year, Misfit Gamer Studios is going to shift in the way it looks to where anybody who saw us 2 years ago will have seen a D&D podcast. Next year, I don't want it to look like that anymore. I want it to look more like Dropout, where you come in and you're like, oh, there's D&D review, there's D&D building, there's board games and discovery, there's IRL streams, there's cooking streams, and I kind of want it to be more about us and less about the niche topic, right?
Sure.
Like the stuff that we're doing, kind of like leaning into what our fans currently say. Like they're here for us, and just like with Dropout, you're here for the entertainers who are doing these different things. You're not here for their challenges, right? You wouldn't watch this if it were 5 brand new people every night. It's not. You're not coming for that content. You're coming because it's them doing that content.
I know a lot of the people watch Dropout for Brendan Lee Mulligan. Like they really only want to watch the stuff that Brendan Lee Mulligan is in. Same thing with Sam. A lot of the times, like Sam is just what they're there
he's just a huge personality kick. But that's my point. Is those things are made fun because they are really good at doing it. Just like we're really good at pop culture build and subletting subclasses. But I don't think people would watch subletting subclasses as an episode or as a TV series. Like they wouldn't just log into Misfit Gamer Studios if our brand was just hiring every week 2 new people to do a subletting subclass. Like 2 random people come in and make a new subclass, and then 2 random people. Like people wouldn't show up for that. People wouldn't show up to Misfit Gamer Studios because every Monday there is a review. They come because it's us doing that review. They would come because subletting subclasses is coming from our brains, right? And
I will say, I think that there are some viewers out there that, out of all the things that Dropout does, the only thing that they want to watch is actually. And like they're just there for that. And I feel like eventually we might get to that point where like there's people that are only here to watch our homebrew reviews.
But those aren't real fan. Like to me that's an inconsequential aspect of fanhood, because that's only going to reflect on like those episodes, right? Like I look at that as, again, that's not really the audience I'm going to really reflect on.
And that's fair, but it is what I would consider a representation of what where we might actually get to the point of, like, there are going to be people that we think, focus on.
But I think my point being is that, like, there are some like brands out there where that is their thing, right? Like, you go there because either you know exactly what they're going to do, or you go there because you like them, but they also know what's going to make content. Like, they kind of just, they could do anything and they choose to do the one thing. Like, Dropout was great by having all of they're just such good entertainers that they were able to do all of these different entertaining challenges, right? But some they're not.
The Dropout, but it's just a bunch of younger kids. God bless America. Like, they also do a bunch of skits. They do this one thing where they fill their mouths with water and they have people come out dressed weird and they try to, like, make them laugh and stuff like that.
No idea.
My niece watches it all the time. Anyway,
so my just thing is, like, like knowing that there are the people that make a type of content regardless of who comes in, and then there are the people who can make content regardless of who comes in, right? Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking of, is right. There are some people who just, they're locked in the content they make because they know that even though they have good fans, like, that's the content that makes them money. And then there are people who, it kind of doesn't matter what they create as long as they put their heart and soul into it. And that's kind of where I want to be. I really would like, I'd like Misfit Gamer Studios to be something that you come in, maybe you have a favorite series or a favorite particular type of episode you come in for, but I kind of want it to be less about, like, you know, I don't want to just be known for review or board games. I just want to be known for those personalities who usually talk about gaming or something game related. I want to be in the gaming sphere, but I don't want to be known for, like, one of the things that we do. I don't want to do a new thing every single week. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that channel that you never know what we're going to do.
Sure.
But I like I said, the only way I can really describe it is, like, I do want to be like Dropout. Like, Dropout is kind of my goal right now. If I were to say, what do I want Misfit Gamer Studios to turn into? I want Misfit Gamer Studios to be the next Dropout, but not in the sense of their skit comedy game show. I want to be more of the brand and how they can do all of those things. Like, again, you could be flipping through to YouTube Shorts and see Sam, you know, hosting one of the game show challenges, or flip to Brendan Lee Mulligan having, you know, that actually moment, or flip to him, you know, doing a counter argument. You may not necessarily know that's all Dropout, but you kind of know that that's all coming from, like, some people don't necessarily see all of those and recognize that they're all part of the same, like, TV show or like series. That's kind of what I want us to be, is you may know us or see us, but I don't necessarily want everything we do to always funnel back to this, like, ideology of what we are. You know what I mean? I wouldn't mind people who know us from the board game night never knowing we do D&D content. Kind of like that. Like,
sure.
Like, that may be your jam, and there will be people who watch everything, but I just don't want to be that one where when you see us doing something, it seems out of the ordinary. If you found us doing something, I want it to feel like, kind of, again, like Dropout. I want it to feel just as natural seeing us behind podiums, you know, answering puzzle questions, at the same as we're sitting there trying to, like, argue a point. Because it feels like with Dropout, it feels very natural. Those don't feel like odd segments. They just feel like standalone things. And that's what I want.
That's a good idea. I was thinking about, like, this is just a random idea, but, like, creating, like, you and I creating, like, puzzles for each other to, like, try and, like, solve or something like that. So, like, maybe, like, there was, like, a room in a D&D setting, or maybe it doesn't have to be D&D, but it could just be just, like, weird random, like, puzzles or interactions for, you know, each other to, like, poke around and play around with, thinking that, like, stuff you might want to put into your realm or your world or whatever, that you just want to see what it looks like. And I don't know, it's just a random thought, but
I mean, we did want to test, like, things like Curse of Strahd and all of that, like, you know, kind of do our own, like, approach to it. So you know, that could be something.
That's very fair.
It does remind me of the time that I built the portable escape room, and that just makes me that takes me back to that was a hell of a hyper focus.
Wild, amazing.
But it was a lot of fun to build a very custom. I had this old, like, end table with a drawer, and I there was, like, by the time I was done, there were, like, 6 locks and, like, 20 clues.
Dang.
And it had everything, like, you know, there was, like, physical puzzles where you had to, like, kind of like physical, like, Like it started with it being completely wrapped, but you couldn't see the rope. Like it was wrapped in canvas, but you couldn't see the rope because I had tied it all internally. So you had to basically reach in behind the canvas and, like basically blindedly unknot it just to get to the puzzle.
You know, when you like reach into like a purse and you're just like feeling around for which I don't know why that is one of my favorite games to play. Is just blindly like finding what you need.
And that's what this was. Is it was like it was just like this canvas wrapped like table, and it was like the canvas was all folded in on itself. There was a few areas you could reach in and then find the tugs, and then you would just pull and it would loosen, and then you would lift that off, and then it was just the table with a bunch of locks on it. So the thing was locked. There were a couple things that were on it. I had drilled a hole in the back, and I turned the entire shelf, like the drawer. I glued a bunch of pieces in it, and I turned it into a blind marble puzzle. So the drawer was locked in the drawer was locked in the front, but there was also a hole in the back, and that had I put a little hinge on it, like a gate lock hinge, and a padlock on that one too. So one of the clues that you got was to get the ball out. Like there was like a ball inside, and you can hear it rolling around. So you had to pick up the thing and do one of those like little maneuver things in order to get the ball through a puzzle you couldn't see. In order to
like
get
a maze,
maze. In order to get it out the back. So then when you got that, you got a little bit of a marble, and it was a glass marble that I used, a very big one, and that led you to a different clue. That the text that I wrote, I printed it out and had a clue on the top. The text progressively got smaller to where you couldn't read it, but you could if you had the marble, which acted like a magnifying glass to give you the rest of the clue.
Wild.
So those are the kind of like the things that I did where it was just like I had a lot of fun making that. And man, escape rooms would have been a fun like career for me.
That'd been cool.
That was a lot of fun. I got to use all of like my D&D knowledge to do all of that. I still have it somewhere. Most of the clues are very specific to the person I built it for, but it was a lot of fun. There was some crazy stuff. There was like I got Lego pieces, and I randomly like glued a bunch of Lego pieces everywhere, in random shapes and stuff. So one of the clues was asking like how many colors of a certain type.
Yeah.
So you had to like go all the way around and count like a certain color of Lego piece. On the very bottom, if you got a clue to flip it over, and then it was also kind of like not level, but then you had a clue to lift it, to turn the entire thing upside down. So when you did, you found out the reason why it wasn't level is one of the legs that I had. I screwed a hole into it. And I shoved a clue in there, and then I put a cork in it. I literally capped it with a cork. That cork stuck out just enough to where the table was wobbly. But when you turned it over, it was very obvious. Oh, I just unplugged that. And then what I ended up doing for the clue, I can't believe I'm remembering all this. So inside the leg, where you pop the cork, and then a bunch of little pieces came out, and all of the pieces were a cut up pog, like an old cardboard pog. I cut a pog out. And then just stubbed so you had to bring all those out, and then you had to put them together, so like an escape room puzzle.
Sure.
And the pog had a word on it, and then that word led you to a cipher that would solve a different word that opened up one of the other. Like it was just one of those things where it was just constantly
chain reactions,
from one to the next.
Yep.
But it was like coming up with that. It was like, oh, well, I need a 4-letter word to make this lock on. So I happen to have like my pogs next to me, and I'm like, do I happen to have a pog that has these letters on it? And I did. Because it was one of those ones you could change the code, but I only had so many letters, and I'm like, a fucking pog that has the right letters. So I'm like, fuck yeah. And then I'm like, well, how am I gonna hide the pog pieces? I'm like, well, what if I cut them up and it was a puzzle in its own? I'm like, then how am I gonna hide all these shavings? And I'm like, oh,
start from the end. This is so many mazes. If you start at the end, it's like a straight shot to the start instead of starting at the start.
Because most of the red herrings are only visible in one direction.
Yep. So just start it the other way.
Yeah, so I'm down for that. I am totally down for a like puzzle testing, or just even play testing puzzles together.
Yeah.
Or even just doing that as part of homebrew review. Let people like submit, a puzzle or something that we have to like engage with. The problem sometimes though is that there has to be enough information for context, because sometimes a puzzle can, without context, both of us could go in completely different directions than what we think was described.
Which is kind of why, it's interesting you mentioned like homebrew review. A lot of homebrew review, we gotta do it for the purpose, for the mindset that, hey, this is for anybody to pick up. So like, can you create this in such a way that like a DM could just throw this in a dungeon, or could just throw this in a whatever?
Which is why I like the way that we do it, because that's exactly what we try to do. We look at this from the perspective of I'm just thumbing through a book and boom, here's a monster, here's a playable character. And if I'm reading it and it's not answering questions, or like we've had this happen where we read it and we're just like, I don't know how this makes sense to add into a world. But other times we're just like, oh my God, yeah, I could easily like make it, like today, Capybara can be from an island or it can be from a dimension in the Feywild. Like if we can sit there and come up with 5 things on the spot, it's more likely that another DM is going to be like, I can drop that in.
Sure.
But if you and I, people who are trying to make it fit, if we can't even come up with a way to make it fit, how are people who have more elaborate worlds and more strict worlds that are very, like, I would like to believe both of you and I have some of the most open-ended ideologies of how our worlds work, right? Like we have some of the most acceptable like world mechanics.
Sure.
So if we're struggling to make a reason why this could be developed or could be introduced, it's probably going to be hard for someone who doesn't have a very specific world setting, because I think more people have more limitations than we do in terms of how they want to add things, how they want to like develop the story. So yeah, I think that's a good mindset to always remember, is that we are trying to understand what was the intent of the author, but also show a potential for what is someone who doesn't know all that context. What are they going to work with this, and is that interpretation going to change how it works? Because sometimes the lore matters more than the mechanics, and vice versa. Sometimes the mechanics work regardless of where it came from, and then other times it's like, but if I can't make it come from there, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
Because my world just doesn't operate with these things. So yeah, I think that's a good point to make, is that knowing the audience and knowing that that's what we're trying to do it for. We're not just trying to say, do we like it just for High Point, or do we like it just for your players? This is that mindset of like,
how does this work?
Yeah.
Cool.
Fun times. Well, I think we'll end it there. Hopefully Des sees the VOD and enjoys it. Wasn't very long, but it was cool.
We got a good chunk in there. Hour and a half.
All right. So for this week, you can expect Johnny 5, the Pop Culture Build Johnny 5 this Friday. You will also get an update on the community stream, because it'll probably be somewhere around my birthday, either the weekend before or after. And we'll do a subathon, probably go buy some minis and do all of that fun stuff. Maybe I'll do a quick little like IRL stream when I go buy minis at the store or something. Try to go on a very, like dead day where I can actually like walk around and look at them. But other than that, yeah, I got no other updates. I'll try to go live. I do have some time off this week, but it's mostly going to be focused on getting all of this stuff done. So yeah, not a big holiday. I mean, it's going to be a long holiday week, and I have 5.5 days off.
Is there a holiday? Oh, that's right. I stay forgetting the 4th of July.
Yeah. Well, so I already have Friday off, and Monday is my regular day off. So I have Monday was already going to be off. Friday's a holiday. So I took Thursday off, and I took a half day Wednesday.
Very nice.
So I got a 5.5 day weekend. I'm going to get a lot of work done. But yeah, keep us, or we will keep you posted. Stay tuned for more updates from the Misfit Gamer Studios, about one-shot rivals, about more developments, about just everything. And a lot of stuff is going to change in the next 6 months. We're going to look completely different. So
true that.
All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your night. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and I hope we'll see you guys Friday. I hope you had a fantastic weekend, and I hope you have a great week ahead of you guys. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.